Good morning to you and welcome to the show. This is The Key Points and you are with me, Abna Tebi. It is another Saturday. We're back here to look at issues of national concern and we are delighted to be coming your way once again. It is the 24th day of July 2021 and it is a pleasure to be coming your way. We are coming to you as usual live from the studios of TV3 here in Accra. We're also live on 3FM 92.7, online at 3news.com, also on our Facebook page at TV3 Ghana. As usual, there's a whole lot to get into on the show this morning, and we shall start off this morning with a conversation around the question between the threat of the COVID-19 third wave in Ghana and the purchase of Sputnik V vaccines. Where do we turn to? Now, this week, there have been conversations about the possibility of a third wave of the pandemic in the country. There have also been reports of intensive care units getting filled to capacity. And you will recall that the Ghana Health Service on 22nd June 2021 confirmed 6 cases of the Delta variant of the virus among passengers arriving in Ghana through the Kotoka International Airport. Now, there seems to have been an exponential increase in the number of cases since then. The figures point to an increase of about 45% between 22nd June and July 17, 2021. Now, with a surge in the number of cases and our vaccine rollout plan seemingly at a standstill, coupled with a general total disregard for the preventive protocols, what are our chances of getting the situation under control? Now, speaking of vaccines, the Minister of Health has also appeared before the parliamentary committee set up to probe the contract for the procurement of some quantities of Sputnik V vaccines from the United Arab Emirates-based Sheikh Ahmed Dalmouk Al Maktoum. Interesting developments have so far emerged from this parliamentary probe. We shall be looking at those developments as well on the show as we go on this morning. Then we go on to the next issue where we ask, an acting IGP has been named and a special prosecutor nominee recommended by the Appointments Committee of Parliament for approval by the House. Is this a shot in the arm for Ghana's corruption fight? Now, after the country's first special prosecutor, Mr. Martin Amidou, resigned in November 2020, alleging interference in his job by the president, the Attorney General, pursuant to the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act, nominated Mr. Kisi Ejabing for consideration as a suitable replacement. Now, the nomination of Mr. Kisi Ejabing earlier on in the year was met with all sorts of reactions, predominant amongst them being concerns about a supposed connection with the government and whether or not that supposed connection could inhibit him in the performance of his role as Special Prosecutor, that is, if approved, independently and impartially. In fact, Mr. Martin Amidou himself described Mr. Kisi Ejabing as, quote, a surrogate of the government. Long story cut short, Mr. Kisi Ejabing was vetted on Thursday by the Appointments Committee of Parliament, and not so long after his vetting, he was unanimously recommended by the committee for approval by the House. Question is, does this unanimous recommendation for his approval resolve the concerns about Mr. Kisi Ejabing's supposed association with the government? We shall be interrogating this and many other questions. At the front of the Ghana Police Service, COP Dr. George Akufo Dampare has been appointed by the President as acting IGP effective 1st August 2021. Now, the appointment of COP Dampare has also been met with some level of excitement. The question is, why is that? I'm curious to know, as sure as you are as well. And what are people's expectations of him coming in at a time of a perceived growing insecurity in the country? We shall be looking at this issue as well. So it's fully packed. You don't want to miss any part of it. We encourage you to stay with us. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we delve into the issue about a possible third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country. See you shortly.
Saturdays at 10 a.m. only on TV3.
Where all my dancers at? The 3FM Dance Challenge is back this August with exciting things to be won. This is an open call to all non-professional dancers and dance groups or squads, families and more to prove themselves as the best dancer or dance squad. To enter, create a 1-minute video and send to the 3FM WhatsApp number on 0202-629860. Entries are open from now till 4th of August. Finalists will be announced during the 3FM drive on the 6th of August to enter into the main competition. 3FM Dance Challenge Season 2. Let your body loose.
Welcome wherever you are on Planet Football.
You can go anywhere in the world, but nobody feels football like we do.
There's no feeling like that feeling.
It's a rhythm that moves us.
A wild celebration.
The 90 hours banter before the 90-minute game.
Tony is very lucky that his father is a better person than Ole.
It's football or nothing.
Had a look, had a hit.
Football. Le football.
Soccer.
Goal of a lifetime.
Ballon Gafa.
Splendid football. Put the champagne on ice. Not done yet.
Nothing beats that.
Nothing compares to DSTV's unbeatable football offering. So stay connected to watch the best football on the planet.
Impressor oil na capsules kura ahoɔdenno eboa eyi yawa enam sasabro osisi wachiri bremo ne afei waposo nyina firi nipadua no mu. Impressor capsules kura ahoɔden a etumi boa esiesie no mpa ɛho akokwa nea ntokrontokro dedamu ene afei waposo gregira awewie no nyina esiesie no ema no ahoɔden foforo kura wopɛ aduru a wobetumi de wo ho atoso na ayi wo honam yawo nyina ade a ene impressor ne adura wona owo yefuniade mpo etumi no mbie se onom impressor capsules na wo di impressor oil twitwibia eye wo ya no a ene wato adi ya wo bedwane entem so kra wo pe impressor capsule ne oil ibia to a ko pharmacy licensed chemical shop ana herbal shop a ebe wo atufom frɛ Ayona Pharmacy Limited 0553 134 185 ana 0243 123 224. Impressor Yao Big Johnny. This advert is FDA approved.
Sale, you're gonna direct. Now, what's this saying? With Dewa NLA 539 Direct, you only have to select up to 5 numbers from 1 to 39. To play, dial *446# across all mobile networks and select option 1. With a minimum of 2 Ghana cedis, you can bet on Direct 1. Match the first number and win 20 times your stake. Direct 2. Match 2 numbers and win 45 times your stake. Direct 3. Match 3 numbers and win 400 times your stake. Direct 4. Match 4 and win 5,000 times your stake. Direct 5. Match all 5 numbers to win 50,000 times your stake. The more you play, the more you win. Look out for the draw results on TV3 News at 7 p.m. Win easy, win every day with Dewa NLA 539 Direct. Afa, win it choke.
In a country with a fast-growing population like ours, accessibility to quality, reliable information on sexual and reproductive health is very important for all persons, including the vulnerable and marginalized. I therefore urge all of us as healthcare providers and the entire society not to marginalize this group, but to bring them on board in the communication and activities pertaining to the subjects. Access to sexual and reproductive health information and services should be a must for persons affected by mental health conditions to enable them make informed decisions.
This message is brought to you by Basic Needs Ghana and funded by Amplify Change.
The journey to find out one queen continues. Last week, our contestants put up splendid performances.
Freedom! Freedom at last! So in the wake of a new dawn, people of Ahafo are not just courageous, so we are hard working.
This week, the battle gets keener as our ladies have been tasked to identify a cultural practice that they would like to modernize in their region.
You can identify queen mothers by how they wear their dowry.
Catch Ghana's Most Beautiful 2021 live from TV3 Studio B this Sunday at 8 p.m. Studio audience is strictly by invitation. And remember to vote for your favorite contestant by dialing *713*13# or download the TV3 Reality app from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store and follow the prompt to vote. GMB 2021, rediscovering true beauty.
GMB 2021 shows Sundays at
8 p.m.
and repeats Fridays at 3 p.m. and is sponsored by Lavon's Tomato Mix, Camel now from Kerex, Freedom from Casaprecon, GTP, Darling Lemon Drink, Airtel Tigo's Big Time Bundles, Lufat, Heaven Black Mosquito Spray and Coil, and Napa Mackerel, Geisha, Close Up, and supported by
You're welcome back. This is the Key Points, and we are live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7 and online at 3news.com, also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. So there's been talk about a possible third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country all throughout this week, and we're going to be looking at that and many other issues around that development. In the studio with me, we have Dr. Titus Bayo. He is the Deputy General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association. Good morning, Doc. It's good to have you.
Good morning.
And also joining us on Zoom, we have Dr. Asiedu Bekwe. He is the Director of Public Health with the Ghana Health Service. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning.
It's great to have you, and we're grateful for your time. Yes, so let's start with this, talk about a possible third wave of the pandemic. Some actually say that perhaps we are experiencing that third wave. Let me have your thoughts on that.
Thank you very much. So I think that last week we had a meeting in Kumasi, and what we said was that if our current situation does not improve, then we are actually going to get into the third wave. If you look at our epic curve over the period, you can see that there tends to be minor humps before the big one. So you can see that there was an earlier one that started in March, like May, it ended. We had a big one in June, July. And so somewhere like August, it was like end, which was supposed to be the first wave. Then it flattened out, and then somewhere in November, we had this other small wave that was actually due to a lot of school outbreaks and workplace. And then that one flattened out, and then end of December, you have the big one for the second wave. So when this one started, the idea was that is it similar to the ones that were occurring? So that was you have a smaller one and a big one. But if you look at the current shape of the curve, I think that we are actually in the third wave.
We are in the third wave. And so what is being done to try to deal with the situation, to curb the situation? Because looking around or having discussions with the experts in the sector, people like yourselves and Dr. Bayo here, the suggestion is until we have sufficient vaccines or a larger proportion of the people are vaccinated, our surest bet is the preventive protocols, washing of hands, sanitizing, wearing masks in certain spaces, social distancing and all of that. But we continuously see that those protocols are not being complied with. So what exactly are we doing to deal with the situation, if indeed, like you're saying, we are in the third wave?
Yes, so I think that it's a challenging situation that we are trying to address. You see, the Ghana Health Service approach to the response is not very much dependent on the number of cases. But the average Ghanaian tends to look at the cases to get his mind to conform. And I think that's where the challenge is, because every preaching adherence to third wave is not dependent on whether you have 20 cases on a dashboard or have 500 cases on a dashboard. So the idea, and I'm happy you are alluding to it, that the best intervention, and I think that people will trivialize it, that's why we're talking about adherence to protocols, why we're talking about securing beds. The best intervention, which is the most cost effective, is adherence to the protocols. And yet it's difficult. I mean, actually it's very challenging to get that message to the Ghanaian to appreciate you wear the mask. So what we intend doing, or what we have been doing, is how do we use influencers and people who have impact on people to get them to adhere to protocols. So if you look at it, just a few weeks ago at the Ghana COVID Trust Fund, actually I outdoor some brand ambassadors, which we are hoping that people will look up to them and then conform to the protocol, particularly the wearing of the mask. We are also going to follow suit. We have been engaging a few, because we're thinking that it's very challenging to get the Ghanaian to appreciate. And very soon, I think the president will communicate likewise to the Ghanaian that it is not just a vaccine, but it's the preventive method, which is very crucial. So I think that when we started giving the vaccines, people were somehow whether confused that the disease is gone. And then even the few that were wearing the mask put it off. So the next few weeks, and our plan is to make sure that we try and get the figures before June. So the next 2 months, that's what we're going to do, to have a very heightened campaign on promoting and enforcement of the mask. So the promotion is the use of the influencers, the celebrities, the champions, the high-profile chiefs and religious leaders. And then the enforcement is going to be done in different levels. So one is like when you are going to sit in the throttle, the station master must ensure that you have a mask before you sit in the throttle. When you are going to the supermarket.
But if I may ask, why aren't we doing that now? What does that require? I mean, to get this started, what would it entail? Shouldn't we be doing this? In fact, isn't it a bit long overdue?
No, that's what I'm saying, that it's not being heightened. It's not that it's zero, but it's fine. Now, I think one thing which is very clear, and I think every Ghanaian is getting it, that is the adherence to protocol, which is the ultimate.
Are you sure people are getting that message? Do you think that message has gotten down well?
Listen, I think that even the narrative from you is pointing to the fact that.
But that's true. We're looking at the average Ghanaian, people who would not necessarily, be in tune with certain, developments globally and all of that. I mean, definitely there is some level of disconnect.
Yes, I know what I'm talking about. The media says agenda. If the media says that the way to go is the wear of the mask, Ghanaians conform to it. And I think
been saying that all this while that message has been there. And so if we are seeing some high level of non-compliance, then there must be some problem beyond, because the media continually, we put it out there.
No. You see, it's just putting out there. It's the way it is put out there. You see, I think that it's not only unique to Ghana. I mean, adherence to protocols is a very challenging issue. So it's a collective effort about getting it done. And it's a mindset. Changing mindset is a bit challenging to get somebody to change mindset. So we are thinking that, and what we are saying is that it needs to be collective and all must be on board. We need the key people to make sure that saying that this is the way we should go as a country. So it's not the health service alone that can do it. It's all the country decided that, hey, if I'm working from my house, I need to wear a mask, and you close to me must also wear a mask. So you can also have an individual enforcement. So it's not just about security people enforcing, but you can tell your guy around you that, my man, why are you not in a mask? I mean, that is the drive they are trying to push, so that it becomes a national effort.
Very well. Viewers, let me quickly announce also that we have Dr. Kwame Sapon Esiedu joining us on Zoom. He's in the UK. He's a pharmacist and a fellow with the CDD Ghana. Dr. Sapon Esiedu, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning. Good morning to Titus and Kofi.
Right.
Nice to be with all of you.
Great. It's good to have you. Hope you're doing well in the UK.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah, new day.
Good. Okay. So, as you heard, I'm sure, from Dr. Esiedu, he's saying that looking at what's happening, the numbers and all, we are in the third wave. We're experiencing the third wave. Your thoughts so far on that?
Yes, thanks. I have always said that I don't focus too much on these waves because, like I heard Kofi say, the waves would come dependent on human behavior. Compliance with behavioral attitudes in public health are quite difficult. But yes, if you look at the numbers as they pertain now, we are having an uptick. As to how big this wave would be, because normally when you talk about waves, as he said earlier, we saw the first wave and how it went, and sometimes you have bumps and sometimes you avert it. It's not because that wasn't a wave, that bump wasn't a wave, but perhaps mitigation was put in place by way of the protocols to ensure that it didn't hit a spike. We had the uptick in December, January, which became a wave because the mitigation wasn't there. But in all the waves we've had in Ghana, there are certain things that sequencing tells us. The first one predominantly was by the strain that came in from Wuhan, which was the Chinese strain. That had a reproductive number of 2.4 to 2.6. Then we had the bump in, around October, November, which had a reproductive number of about 3, because that was what was coming from the UK and Italy and all that. We averted that. It quickly subsided. Then we had the uptick in December, which gave us our worst mortalities. That was predominantly determined by the alpha strain, or the UK, what was called the Kent strain then.
Right.
That had a reproductive number of 4 to 5, and we saw the mortalities. The current variants we are having seems to be driven, the current uptick we are having seems to be driven by the Delta strain, and this is what's poignant for me. That has a reproductive number between 5 and 8. That is 200 times more contagious than what we had from Wuhan, and 100 times more contagious, 100% more contagious than what we got from the alpha strain of Kent. However, our behaviors have dropped, and that is the point I think Kofi was making. Our behaviors, while the reproductive number is going up, our compliance with protocols is going down. That is what, for me, I look at and I cringe. Because I would expect that the more lethal the pathogen, the better we would react to it. And I would end at this point by saying that as citizens, I don't think we have understood this dynamic very well. And I'm just hoping that we can get the citizens to understand this dynamic of what Dr. Esiedu is saying, that we are in the third wave, but what actually is driving the wave. Because for me, that is what's important, as to how many people would fall sick, as to the pressures that our health system would come under, is dependent on the ability of this pathogen to move from person to person and how quickly. The reproductive number and the doubling rate.
Very well.
At the moment, we are not doing too well with both, and that is what should be concerning to us.
Very well. Thank you for that, Doc. I'll be coming back to you. You know, Dr. Bayo, it's a concerning situation. Talking about behaviors and the fact that, of course, and it's true, anytime we seem to let our guards down, we see the surge. Then we get back into, you know, that whole mode about let's, you know, comply with protocols, and we see a certain level of, if you like, flattening of the curve and all of that. So what do you think can be done? Should the authorities resort to panic advocacy or messaging as against what they say, remain calm, don't be, you know, don't panic, that kind of thing? What do you think the message should be if the numbers are not presenting huge, numbers on the, figures on the dashboard, then people go to sleep on their compliance levels. What should be done?
It's a very sad situation. Let me say good morning to Kwame, good morning to Dr. Asiedu Bequin, and then to our listeners. It's a very sad situation we find ourselves. If you ask what should be done, first I think we should address what was not done right. And then we will know what we can do to improve the situation. If you look at it, the biggest challenge we have had, in my opinion, has been a challenge with risk communication. We all put in an effort, and then when we are making progress, we relax. Now, it is natural for people to relax because adherence to a new lifestyle is difficult. You need continuous reinforcement for people to be able to keep up with a new lifestyle. And putting on the masks all the time, social distancing, all that, is very challenging. So anybody managing our risk communication must know necessarily that at some point there will be fatigue. And therefore people will be tired of all of this. So
you don't let fatigue set in the first place.
Yes. And when in the midst of that, you send confusing signals, then we have a problem. We are at this state because at some point, when we made a lot of noise after the last major wave, around January, February, March there, and we were able to bring it down by our behavior. Some people thought it was a vaccination that brought it down. It wasn't a vaccination. It was a concerted effort by all citizens and all of us behaving well. That brought that wave down. Now, after that, people let their guards down. To make things worse, when little aliquots of vaccination started dropping in the country, the few vaccinated, in my opinion, begin showing what I'll call selfish life, of thinking that they are protected and therefore they can just do anything. I think, other than the word selfish, I don't know what word I can use to describe it. Because if you have less than 2% of your population vaccinated, and you think that because you're protected, you can do anything else. And in this dimension, a lot of us citizens were victims to it. People who were vaccinated were calling us to mass gatherings and were following. People who were vaccinated were going to funerals feeling they were okay. Meanwhile, 99% of the people at that funeral were not vaccinated. So that was another arm that has brought us to where we are. To make things worse, when this Delta variant started coming in, and we were trying to make the noise that, look, let's be careful, let's be careful. Like Kwame said, if you understand the epidemiology of this current strain, the degree of its infectivity or its attack rate, you would know that if it comes into a country, we have challenges. Now, when this was coming up and you want to make noise, sit up, all of that, those managing our communication are in a fix. Do we press the panic button? Do we tell people to remain calm? Do we reassure people of what we have? Truth is, that type of messaging confuses everybody. And if that is coupled with the leaders that we look up to, showing like there is nothing, then we have a challenge. So going forward, if you ask me, I am happy the Director of Public Health is looking at other people different from our politicians. The politicians have failed us big time. I think we have to look for new people in the society, and it has to take me and you, everybody in the media, and all of us to realize that where we are, it doesn't matter who calls us. This is the existential challenge that faces us as a people. The vaccines are not coming. We cannot get enough vaccines to rapidly vaccinate the population. We have a contagious strain that is lethal. We have a health system that is fragile. We have seen the people we are getting the vaccines from, what this strain did to them. And we are not getting enough vaccines. So in this mix, our only solution as people is personal protection and getting our neighbor to protect themselves. And then we can all be safe. And not to look forward to the traditional political leadership we have ever looked to. We have to take things into our hands. And until we get there, we are having a big challenge. Because we have a population that doesn't believe, some people don't believe that this is real because they look at the people who should be telling them and they are doing the worst. So this is where it is. So I think we must change our communication direction. Thank you.
Very well. Dr. Asiedu Bequin, let me come back to you. Doc, can you hear me? Dr. Bequin?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. So, yes, let's look at the issues here. We've talked about vaccination and the fact that obviously the vaccination rollout has, hit some challenges. We do appreciate that. But first of all, if you could let us understand, what percentage of the cases being recorded now could be traced to the Delta virus? What percentage are we recording? Has that overtaken I believe it used to be the UK variant that was, dominant?
Okay, thank you very much. So let me say that we are actually expanding the genomic sequencing in the country. It's actually being done by 4 institutions now. You have WACBIC, we have Noguchi, then we have there are 2 institutions actually in Noguchi that are doing it, and I have UHAS. So there are 4 institutions that are doing it, and so it is not the typical, let's say, the 1 person and then a genomic sequencing done. So far, what they've done, I would say that it's still the alpha variant is a dominant, but there's a gradual increasing presence of the delta. Most countries the delta has taken over, but for now, what we have is a delta, and maybe possibly the next few months we're going to have the dominance of the delta, but still the alpha, which is a dominant strain, which is in the country. I think that one thing, because we are not doing very extensive genomic sequencing. What we were doing initially was we were actually testing persons that were coming from outside. Because the idea is that the cases will come from outside. So we were actually testing those who are positive from the outside, and then to find out whether they have the genomic strain. And then a few was being done in the community. So the early cases were actually detected somewhere in April at the airport, and it took reasonably a long time before we had it in the Achimota outbreak. But for now, there are incidences of it being recorded in other parts of Ashanti region and Greater Accra. I think that when it becomes more extensive, we can know the extent of spread in the country. One thing I need to state is that though we do very limited genomic sequencing, most of the cases that are ill at the hospital are actually the people who are not vaccinated. So somehow it tells you clearly that vaccination gives protection to against severe disease. Very well.
Now you talked about the situation in Kumasi, and that brings to the fore the bit about the Kumasi, the KMA, and the statement that it issued concerning when they detected the Delta variant in Kumasi as far back as December 2020. But we got the GHS confirming this in June. Could you, shed some light on this situation?
No, I think that it was a slip on their side, because I'm sure the person is talking about a variant, so that PR is not very sure what variant you're talking about. Clearly, what at that time was alpha, so it's not the KMA does not detect viruses. So it was just a slip in their communication.
So it was a slip in their communication. So you're sticking to the initial statement, which is that GHS actually confirmed the Delta variant, being in the communities in June 2021. That's what.
Yes.
Okay.
The KMA one, it
was a mistake, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, very well. That must, that indeed is a grave mistake then, because it raises a whole lot of issues about, confidence in institutions and all of that. But thanks for that clarification. Now let's look at vaccines. Currently, less than 2% of the population is vaccinated. And we are talking about a vaccine rollout plan which has been met with some challenges. We are told that we're expecting some quantities of the Pfizer vaccine in August, middle of August, and some quantities of the AstraZeneca as well. But how optimistic should the citizens be about these arrangements that are to be put forward, or to actually kick in later on in the year? Because obviously there's a huge chunk of people who are waiting for their second doses of AstraZeneca. What is the situation?
Okay, thank you very much. So I think that the vaccine situation is challenging, but the next few weeks we may have an improvement. First, because we had the cold chain system that was kind of restrictive, so we were not kind of very much exposed to all the kind of available vaccines. At that time, our cold chain could only pick vaccines that were to be stored between 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. So that's why you are going to look at the AstraZeneca and the others. Because we didn't have the ultra-negative cold chain equipment that could take in Moderna and Pfizer. Now, as I speak, we have a reasonable number of those ultra-negative cold chain equipment in the country. So now we can take Pfizer. So that's why we are going to get about 1.3 million doses of Pfizer in the next few weeks. And then we're going to get the COVAX facility. I mean, that was a facility that gave us the initial doses. As of now, we have received about 1.3 million doses of AstraZeneca, and most of them come from COVAX. So COVAX is going to give us 249,000 also in the next few weeks. The idea is to get 200,000 to be able to cover those who are due for the second wave. So that's what the president and other key people are trying to make sure that we cover that second phase. Yes. Then the African Union actually has an arrangement with Johnson & Johnson. And we as a country were kind of allocated 17 million doses. And let me say the 17 million doses is over a period of time, starting from the third quarter of 2021. So it's a mixture of Johnson & Johnson and then AstraZeneca. And what they are saying is that by third quarter, we'll start getting it. So what is very clear is that come 2-3 weeks, we will start getting some vaccines. What we are putting up as a service is to making sure that our people are well trained and well versed about how to use this ultra-negative cold chain equipment, because we've never used those things before. And I think that now we have facilities like the zip line and then the UPS, and then the government itself has bought a lot of ultra-negative cold chain equipment, including donations from UNICEF. So now we are in to receive a number of vaccines. And let me also state that initially we had only 2 vaccines registered, but now we have 5. So we have Moderna, we have Pfizer, we have Johnson & Johnson, we have AstraZeneca, and we have Sputnik V. So for now, I think that we have expanded our available vaccines for use.
Very well. Now, it's interesting, you talk about the fact that we, due to the infrastructural deficiencies in terms of the cold chain you talk about, that was why we couldn't get certain types of vaccines, talking about the Pfizer, for instance. But you're saying that we now have that infrastructure, so we can take on that. But is that the only reason why? Because earlier on, we were told that we couldn't actually get, vaccines directly from, like on the government level because of all those challenges with that kind of, procurement. But now we're hearing that it's because we didn't have a particular kind of infrastructure. Could you clarify that?
No. So the narrative has not changed. The issue is that when you have an improved infrastructure, you are more likely to get other vaccines. So assuming you are a country that does not have facility that can host ultra-negative, then you cannot get the Pfizers. So there's an obvious global challenge in terms of availability of the vaccines. The GH countries are making available some vaccines, but then if you do not have that kind of cold chain facility, you cannot really access them. So that's why I say that for now, they are better placed than we were some months ago.
Very well. Thanks for that clarification. Now, let's still stay on vaccines here a bit. I have figures here that suggest that out of the 1.2 million vaccines that have been administered, the first dose constitutes about 865,422, and the second dose 405 and 971 or so. So again, there's a huge chunk of people, waiting for their second doses. But that is AstraZeneca. We are told that some 250,000 doses will be coming in, AstraZeneca, very soon. That will still leave about 200,000 people, without their second doses. And so when you hear of Pfizer coming in, the question is, could Pfizer be used to top up AstraZeneca, those who have the first dose, or what is the situation? Let us understand, some public education here. People who have had AstraZeneca first dose, could they or can they take some other vaccines as a second dose, or what? Just for public education purpose, let us understand.
Yeah, so I think that in the early stages, the idea is that you go all straight. So if you are going AstraZeneca, you go all AstraZeneca. But now I know there are other countries who are doing interchangeability of vaccines, and even the Chancellor of Germany took AstraZeneca, I think Moderna. So it's a mixture. For now, Ghana, we are not there yet. So we will still stick to the straight one. So we are saying that AstraZeneca. We're not very sure because of the possible side effects that may occur. We want to be very conservative for now and make sure that we get the remaining 200,000 for those who are left to be covered. We do not have enough evidence for now to be switching vaccines. So the 1.3 billion doses that we are getting for us is going to be for those who have never received any vaccine, and not to complement those who had the first dose.
Okay, so still on that, I mean, there are concerns about the time lapse, because there are prescribed intervals for the first dose and the second dose. And so for people who are still waiting for their second dose, aren't they having their, if you like, their situation compromised with this delay? Because you're looking at periods beyond 8 weeks, 12 weeks, and all of that. How much of a challenge is that, and what really can be done to address that? Because at the end of the day, if you go beyond the timelines, you might as well have not taken the vaccine then, if it's going to be redundant to a certain degree.
Yeah, so I think that the efficacy of the vaccine, I think it can last for up to 6 months. I think that after 6 months, then you're kind of lost.
That is a first dose awaiting a second dose?
Yes, but I think that, you see, these viruses, that's what they call the novel viruses. There's a lot of literature going on, and with time, you tend to get more knowledge about it. Initially, AstraZeneca was about first dose, taking those 3 weeks, 4 weeks, went to 8 weeks, went to 12 weeks. Now there are countries that are doing it in 4 months, some are doing 5 months. So I think that for now, what is available is that you can have neutralizing antibodies up to 6 months. So we are very certain that before that time, all those who had the first dose would have gotten the second dose to make sure that they achieve full immunity.
Very well. So, yes. So basically, we're looking at a situation where you said it is possible that you could have a combination of vaccines.
No, I say other countries are
doing that, but we...
Yes, for us, we are a bit more cautious now. We want to be sure that the Ghanaians who took the first dose of AstraZeneca will get the second dose. It's a challenging situation. COVAX is promising 249,000. It seems that there are about 20,000 that we have to get the vaccines. And we are exploring all other means to make sure that those people are covered. Let me say that, you see, when we have the initial allocation of AstraZeneca, the thinking was that, do we do double dosing or single dosing? And Nigeria did the double dosing. So what they did was that they estimated the people of who are supposed to get the vaccine. So like Ghana, we have 700,000. So it means that we have given 300,000 people. And so you get your initial dose and you are sure of the second dose. But we were looking at the literature by WHO that says that a single dose is better than a small population that has a double dose. So that's what we went for. And because there's some level of protection even with single dose. But we also had anticipation that we were able to get additional doses with time. So, but we'll try and get it. But other countries would have given less number of persons because they want to go full double dose instead of single dose.
Very well. Now, before you go, we do know that you'll be traveling very soon, so we'll let you go very soon. But looking at the situation now, do you think a lockdown is imminent? Should we consider that? Would you recommend that?
No, you see, at times when I hear lockdown, then I'm wondering whether Ghanaians hear those things. Why do you want to get to a lockdown? You can easily prevent it by wearing your mask.
No, but I'm asking about the situation now. So do you think that currently the situation would, require that kind of action?
No. See, we try to superimpose the incidence of cases in 2021 and 2020. Clearly, the number of cases we recorded now, if you want to situate it month by month or day by day, we are recording less cases now than we were recording in 2020 at the same time. So, though the cases are rising, we think that when we conform to the protocols, we will not get there. You see, as was said by Kwame, we can actually minimize the size of the wave by clearly adhering to protocols. And if you listen to what our DG said, he said our current health system can withstand. But if the cases should go up, then we go overhaul. And I think that's why I think that we want to appeal to all Ghanaians, including the media, that let's set the agenda that to be sustainable in this system of a pandemic, the key intervention, which is cost effective, is adherence to protocols. And then the best one is the wearing of the mask. I think this is that chief, some try to realize it, but to me, it's the most cost effective intervention when you're handling a pandemic like COVID-19.
Very well. Thank you very much, Dr. Esiedu Bekwe. Dr. Esiedu Bekwe is the Director of Public Health with the Ghana Health Service. We do appreciate your time, and we will let you go now so you can carry on with your business. We appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Right. Now, let me turn to Dr. Kwame Sapon Esiedu. Doc, are you there? Hello, Doc.
Yes, I'm here.
Good.
Yeah, I'm here.
Good. So you heard, the submissions from Dr. Bekwe on the vaccines and all of that, but I want you to give me your take on this, whether you think a lockdown should be recommended, looking at the situation now.
No. I totally agree with what he said. You see, a lockdown in public health is normally called what we call, it's a blunt instrument. You use it to slow down the spread of the pandemic so that you can get strategies in place to control it long term. So normally you do it at a stage where what we call the prevalence rate is low and the number of cases are not too much. Yes, at the moment, we do not have as much number of cases as we had same time last year. But the truth of the matter is, the number of cases and the number of people, if you listen to colleagues who speak from places like KCCR and other things, points to the fact that the positivity rate is also quite high. And when you have a high positivity rate, it tells you that the prevalence in the community is also high, because there's a proportion of the community who would develop symptoms, who would then be identified as possible cases, and as a result will get tested, and some of them will test positive. So if you get a high positivity rate, then it means community prevalence is also high.
Right.
With community prevalence high, and from a country where protections of the general population.
Dr. Esiedu, please hold on for us. Let's deal with a connection issue. We'll come back to you. I think we're having a bit of a challenge on you. We'll come back to you shortly, Doc. Just hold on for us. And let me turn to you, Doc Bayo. Your thoughts on, this whole discussion about a possible lockdown and all of that?
No, I think I agree largely with the earlier two speakers. If you follow public health and if you follow epidemiology, lockdown is not indicated as of now. Sure. Reason is that, like Dr. Esiedu was trying to say, lockdown is basically to slow down the spread of the pandemic and allow us time to think. I think we've done a lot of the thinking already. We know exactly what to do.
Let's implement.
Lockdown is a more expensive exercise now because almost every one of our 16 regions have cases now. So if you say we are locking down the entire country and locking down to do what? We know the what to do, and we know less expensive ways of controlling the spread while waiting for the vaccines. And that is the use of our masks and then adherence to the protocol. So I would say that anybody advocating for lockdown may not probably be understanding the issues very well. We can avert that lockdown if we adhere to the protocols. And it's a cheaper way of slowing down the spread and not doing a full lockdown.
Right, so let's just comply with the restrictions imposed and all of that. Sorry, Doc, we are back to you. Please, carry on with your submissions.
Yes, so like Titus said, you don't want to use a blunt instrument at this point, because public health is always a trade-off between the health security of the population and the economic implications of the actions taken. In a country like Ghana, where we do not have a social safety net, so to speak, that the country is lush with money, where if it locks down, for example, it can pay workers, and there's a high level of informal sectors, we've gone past that stage. But having said that, There are a number of things that Dr. Bayo raised and Dr. Sidibeku raised that I need to address for us to understand where, in my view, I think we are missing the point. And this is it. Dr. Bayo started from the point of view, why are we having this uptick? It's because people who felt they were vaccinated, we saw them holding mass gatherings. We saw them holding parties on masks and other things. Once I saw it, I started telling myself that it looks like as a people, we do not understand the epidemiology of vaccination. And so I think I need to take my time and explain something to everybody. The vaccine does two things. The first thing is it gives you individual protection. The individual protection means that it protects you from either getting infected. When you get infected, it allows your body to mount an immune response and protects you from getting symptoms. If your immune response is not enough, it still protects you from hospitalization. And then it protects you from critical illness and it protects you from death. Currently, the vaccines we have, we know are 95 to 99% protection from death. They are about 89 to 93% protection from hospitalization. They are 60 to 70% protection from symptomatic disease and 60 to 70% protection from getting infection. But we must bear in mind that these levels were measured in countries like the UK and Israel, where vaccine coverage is high. In fact, Israel has passed the herd immunity threshold. The UK is almost there. Which then means that the community protection, because without the community protection, which is what we call the herd immunity, individual protection is very low. Because you have a high susceptible population who can be infected, who can end up infecting the people who've been vaccinated, which can then lead to different strains emerging, of which some might even evade the vaccine because you get vaccine resistance. And those of us who work in the health sector, whether you're a doctor or pharmacist, knows how resistance breeds. It is because the pathogen becomes very conversant with the drug that it's dealing with and starts, they are just like us, they've got a brain. They start thinking of how to evade it. So if you are vaccinated, it doesn't mean you cannot die. It doesn't mean you cannot get hospitalized. It doesn't mean you can not get symptomatic disease. But what is even worrying for me in this way is the fact that it protects you 60 to 70% from getting symptomatic disease, which then means you can be infected and not know, not be wearing your protection, going into crowds, and with 98% of the people unvaccinated, infecting people willy-nilly.
Right.
That is why I agree with Dr. Bayo about the fact that it is our political leadership who failed to understand what the vaccines were doing for them, who have brought us here. Because if you understand the epidemiology of vaccine technology, they wouldn't have done what they did. And that is why when I hear people say, oh, people went to a funeral and they were all vaccinated and therefore they couldn't spread it, I'm like, what data are they speaking to? I've got the latest data that's been released from Public Health England, and I'll forward it to Bayo after we finish. And if you see it, you'd realize that hospitalization in the UK, yes, only 10 to 16% of people who have been vaccinated ever get hospitalized, and they leave very quickly because they don't get into critical care. But it tells you people are still getting infected. So we need to bear this in mind in planning our strategy and realizing that for us without vaccines, our only saving grace is the protocols, face masks, social distancing, washing of hands. I'll leave it here for now.
Very well, thanks. We'll be coming back to you. Dr. Bayo, so moving forward, what should be done? What do you think? So yes, there's that misunderstanding perhaps, or people just going to sleep thinking that yes, they have been vaccinated and so they're out of the woods, forgetting that a greater majority of the people have not been vaccinated. So what are the authorities to do in terms of messaging? Like you said, the politicians, well, perhaps we can't count on them now as, leading by example, because obviously the example will lead us a certain way. So
it's a difficult situation we find ourselves in as a country. If you ask me, I think that the enforcement bit must come in. We have tried educating people. The education must go on a lot for people to understand it. But looking at the fact that this kind of information we are giving to them has been given to them before, and then we confuse them, we misled them. getting even the moral authority to go back and tell them becomes a challenge.
Right.
I think that at some point, if the people are set on a path for self-destruction, leadership have the responsibility to protect the citizenry. So I think some enforcement must come in. In our country, it is still, unless I am wrong, and the legal luminaries can inform us, unless it is wrong that now you can move around without masks, it is still a crime. And therefore, we should enforce the law. Knowing the usual Ghanaian, if you hear that 3 people have been arrested somewhere for not wearing masks, if you hear that people have been prevented from boarding the trotro for not wearing their masks, the following day, everybody will comply. And I think that is where we should be going to, because it's an emergency situation. The education, the using of ambassadors, and all of that will be helpful. But looking at it, if this was a new information, perhaps easier. But considering that we gave them the same information, we came back to confuse them, we decided to throw everything to the gutters. If we just keep on encouraging, I think by the time people get to understand and really follow this, we'll be worse off.
Right.
So I think there should be enforcement. And that enforcement should be across the country so that everybody uses their masks. And then we can protect ourselves. Because as for the vaccines, yes, they would come. But the truth is, I don't know when. No one knows when. And if they are coming in piecemeal, then the health protection we are getting will be dodgy. It is possible that by the time we get another set of people fully vaccinated, maybe even the first people who got their vaccines may have lost the protection. We do not know. And I think I agree with the Ghana Health Service with the decision they took initially to spread out the dose so that everybody got at least 1 dose. Truth is, I mean, if we've checked across the country among health workers who have had just like a single dose, some are getting infected, but they are not dying. Some are getting infected, but they are not getting into critical situation, which means that was a very prudent decision, and we commend them for it. But I think we should take that next step of forcing everybody.
Sure.
We must do that.
And
then the education should also go along.
We'll be taking a break, but quick question. The fellow Ghanaian message, speeches that used to happen, we don't see that much. Do you think it should be brought back, or you think it's been confused in the situation of non-compliance, and so that would also not serve any purpose?
Oh, I think it will serve a purpose. The president is the father of the land. When he speaks, we all listen. He has that authority, and he commands that authority. And I think that when he speaks, we would listen. He should back his words with action, and that makes it better. And I keep saying that if I should hear the president saying, look, we've been invited to this program, we are not going because we are in a wave, or I'm instructing my ministers not to attend any public function that gathers a lot of people because we are in a wave, let's do more virtual things. That is backing his words with action. But I think if he speaks, it's helpful. And I think Dr. Asiedu Bekwin hinted at that he might be speaking to the nation soon. I think it will be helpful at this point. And I think it should not come with appeals. From my point of view, it is an existential challenge that is facing us as a country. And I'm crying from the point of view of our healthcare system. The managers of our healthcare system will seek to assure us that we have an improved capacity. That is true. Our capacity is better than when we began. But no healthcare system globally has been able to stand the wrath of this disease when it goes out of control. And so we should always come with that in mind. And from that point of view, I think there should be enforcement. At some point, the police informed us that some of the EIs had expired, and therefore they were powerless to enforce them. If that is the case, then if the president speaks, we should get new EIs if that is what the law requires, to enable them enforce the law so that we can all be safe.
Lastly, the KMA communication slip. What do you make of that? Because, I mean, we cannot be in a situation like this and have all sorts of, these contradictory messages and all these slips. What do you make of that?
It's very unfortunate. I think that's the first thing I would say. Very, very, very unfortunate. And I think that we all have to be in line in terms of what we communicate. If it's indeed a slip, it throws everything and now brings integrity into question, credibility into question. So when statements come, we now have to verify where it's coming from, and could it be another slip? Could it be the reality? I think the communication system should be tightened up. Such slips are not welcome at such a time like this.
Not at all.
We need clear-cut communication. and that communication should be very balanced. I have serious problem with our risk communication as far as this pandemic is concerned. I think sometimes we are too assuring, when in fact a lot of things are out of our hands or out of our control. We should let the citizenry know that the protection of the nation depends on each individual obeying these protocols, and not give too much of an assurance. We have a very robust system, we have that. No country has survived with that. If we had the vaccines, excellent, but in the absence of the vaccines, I think we should communicate well.
Very well. Indeed, that's a very good point. And I would want to come back to Dr. Kwame here. And on the communication slip, I mean, managing a pandemic is a serious situation. You can't have in there communication slips that raise issues about integrity of institutions, integrity of, the messages that come through, and try to, assure the populace that things are under control and all of that. So what do you make of that, briefly?
To be honest, this is something I don't make a lot of, and I'll tell you why. When was the Delta variant first detected? It was first detected in March 2021. So for starters, when I saw December, I knew no chance. And why do I say so? If you look at the global sequencing database, 49 to 51% of all the sequences come from the UK. And that is why a lot of the variants are identified by the UK, because they invest a lot in sequencing, because they have a very robust vaccine research and development center. So you've got Oxford, you've got Southampton, you've got Cambridge, you've got so many of them, Imperial College, etc., etc. So when the samples that came from India, they were sequencing from that December, they were sequencing in January. The first detection was in March. And even now, there are issues going on in the UK as to why India wasn't red listed when the first detections happened. But it was because the number of some sequences per 100 people were so low that they didn't even realize. At that time, no one could predict the reproductive number. They didn't realize it was this contagious and would take over. So with that public health information that I have and sequencing information I have, I don't see how clearly who didn't have access to the samples from India where it was first detected could have detected it in December. And so
but that's you. That's you. You sit in a certain,
and that's what I'm going to. Yeah. So it is clear that it is a slip. But what does that do? Slips like that do not augur well for the integrity of the communication that the citizens issue. So how do we quell this mischief? The only way is for such communication to be robustly screened by people who understand what is going on in the sector before they are made public documents. And that is the only thing I would say that is the learning rather than the authenticity of the information, because the information in that, based on the information on sequencing, cannot be said to be authentic.
Sure, very well. Thank you for that. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we begin to look at the parliamentary probe into the contract for the procurement of Sputnik V vaccines. The Minister of Health has appeared before that Parliament committee on 2 occasions. We'll be looking at the developments from that probe. See you shortly. This is the Key Points. We'll be right back.
Bonsoir, monsieur. Madame. Et voilà.
Babe, what is this?
This is the escargot. And the foie gras. Oui.
Where did she go?
You pa one kasa who say obasa your pay eh?
It's been long since you ever felt like this.
Welcome to the best in Ghanaian entertainment on Akwaba Magic. Welcome home to Akwaba Magic on DSTV channel 150. It's your moment. DSTV.
Whatever the occasion, with ATL, you can never be out of style. ATL, bringing fabric to life.
Koko, piles, hemorrhoids, intibenya no dro prekope. Ani, Iona Pharmacy the piling capsules aba. Piling, PYLIN, bibia free woto. Woyam tati mu ana. Sede yade koko da ne ho adi woni padua mu biara. Ma onsanka piling. Washada aya piling ama koko. Piling, aya plant medicine. Kayo, PYLIN. Ubenya piling capsules our pharmacy, herbal shop and I licensed chemical shop biaremo. At to form for Iona Pharmacy, Accra 0553 134 185. Kumasi 0243 123 224. Piling, Kokwadro Tatashi. Appeal for Emma woman kwada no for any nkwada woni mfie dumienu entumi mfa drebi. This advert is FDA approved.
Introducing Nestle Milo All-in-One Nutrimix. The goodness of malt, milk and cocoa in Milo, and even more milk. Just add to water and enjoy the perfect cup of winning energy. Milo! Milo! This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
I feel at home whenever I'm in front of the camera. It reminds me of the time when I was a little boy. I used to entertain my family.
After all, it's our story. For the best of your original dramas, telenovelas, and sports, get your GoTV decoder, GoTenna, and a month of GoTV Plus for as little as 109 CDs. Download my GoTV app to easily manage your account on the go. GoTV. Love it.
The journey to find out one queen continues. Last week, our contestants put up splendid performances.
Freedom! Freedom at last! So in the wake of a new dawn, people of Ahafo are not just courageous, so we are hard working.
This week, the battle gets keener as our ladies have been tasked to identify a cultural practice that they would like to modernize in their region.
You can identify queen mothers by how they wear their dowry.
Catch Ghana's Most Beautiful 2021 live from TV3 Studio B this Sunday at 8 p.m. Studio audience is strictly by invitation. And remember to vote for your favorite contestant by dialing *713*13# or download the TV3 Reality app from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store and follow the prompt to vote. GMB 2021, rediscovering true beauty.
GMB 2021 shows Sundays at
8 p.m.
and repeats Fridays at 3 p.m. and is sponsored by Lavon's Tomato Mix, Camel now from Kerex, Freedom from Casaprecon, GTP, Darling Lemon Drink, Airtel Tigo's Big Time Bundles, Lufat, Heaven Black Mosquito Spray and Coil, and Napa Mackerel, Geisha, Close Up, and supported by
When we started it off as another TV cooking show, we showcased their cuisines, introduced you to their recipes, and told you tales of our chefs. Thanks to your viewership, it's grown into a cooking brand embraced by a lot more of you and the best of chefs. It's phenomenal. It reignites the passion for cooking if you ever had it, opens you up to new food ideas if you are willing to try. It's where dreams are formed. Our beginners dream of cooking their favorite meal, dreams of owning and running a huge eatery, of sitting among soups and stews and telling culinary tales. Now tune in and open up Chef's Diaries with us. Watch all of these super Afro chefs in the sub-region and experience their world-famous recipes as they tell tales of their culinary journeys.
Chef Diaries is brought to you by
CBG. We stand with you.
And supported by Tasty Tom. Strength comes from within. Frytol Sunflower Oil, Fortune Rice, Yaz Luxury Tissues, and GTP.
Chef Diary shows Saturdays at 5:30 p.m. on TV3.
Across Africa, nations are beginning to trade among themselves like never before, creating the largest continental market the world has ever seen. On the Single African Market Program, we will show you how products, services, capital and people will be crossing barriers as the continent and its citizens embrace a single market in a sustainable manner for growth and development to meet targeted UN development goals.
Congratulations, Your Excellency.
Get the latest update on all opportunities from the continent's trade house. Know the success stories and how challenges are being addressed. Africa is ready to trade among itself and the world, so are the people. The Single African Market is the voice of businesses that trumpets the vision of Africa everywhere in association with the Government of Ghana, CFDA Secretariat, International Chamber of Commerce, Business for Peace Foundation, GIZ, YAP, and UNDP.
Single African Market shows Sundays at 2 p.m. on TV3.
Welcome back. This is The Key Point, and we are live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7, online at 3news.com, and on Facebook at TV3 Ghana. So we're currently having a conversation about a possible third wave. In fact, it has been, to some extent confirmed that we are experiencing a third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country currently. And in the studio with me, we have Dr. Titus Bayo, the Deputy General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association. And on Zoom, we have Dr. Kwame Sapon. He's a pharmacist and a fellow with the CDD Ghana. So we're moving on next to another angle of this discussion, where we're looking at what's been happening recently regarding the probe by Parliament into the procurement of some quantities of the Sputnik V vaccine. The Minister for Health has met the committee on a couple of occasions, and a number of interesting developments have emerged from that committee. So I'll quickly go to Dr. Sapon, Esiedu Sapon, sorry, and let me have your thoughts on the parliamentary probe currently, the committee set up to look into the contract for the procurement of the Sputnik V vaccines. What do you make of that whole, agreement to, procure the Sputnik V vaccine? Indeed, let me add that I believe the contract, they say, has been abrogated. So, but at least when it was enforced, your thoughts?
Yes, thanks. There were a number of revelations, weren't there? I mean, if you look at the narrative that we were given, even if you look at the narrative that was put out by the Ministry of Health when this whole brouhaha started, and the contrition that came from the minister when he was under oath on a number of things, for example, that they actually were in contact with the sheikh before they started making any advances to obtain vaccines out of facilities like the African Vaccine Platform and COVAX, was interesting. If you look at the fact that it came out that there was no budgeting actually done for the procurement of these vaccines, because at that as November, we didn't have an idea how much these vaccines were going to cost, so we hadn't planned for it. And you were talking about that's November 2020, when vaccine development was already at its end. Bear in mind that both Pfizer and AstraZeneca got licensed in the first week of December of 2020. So by then, as far back as September, October, the immunogenicity data and all that about the vaccines were out. And for some of us who were following the information of vaccine development, the information on safety and efficacy was also out. And we knew that because of how the vaccines had been developed, licensure was going to be pretty quick, because the data had been shared with the regulators in the countries where the vaccines were being developed. So when you hear something like that as at November of that year, we still didn't have our budgeting done. Then you go back and look at the narrative that was put out by the Ministry of Health. And I ask myself one simple question. Did the minister read the narrative that was signed and put up on behalf of his ministry? That's the first thing. The second thing for me is the fact that a minister was allowed to come under so much pressure because we couldn't procure vaccines when the second wave hit, to the point that he said he was looking for the vaccines that quickly to be able to protect the Ghanaians from dying. I have a positive and negative view of that, and I'd explain why. My positive view is this. It is good that you have a minister who, in an emergency, felt that he had to do whatever it took to protect the health security of Ghanaians. My negative for that is the fact that anyone who understands how vaccines work, and that is why I've even said that in this current wave, our answer is not vaccination. And Dr. Bayo said it in the studio earlier about, the uptick and the fact that it's not really the vaccine because our vaccine population is low. But that's not even the point. The gap between the first and second dose of these vaccines are normally 8 to 12 weeks. When you have your first dose, it takes about 22 days for you to have optimum protection. And when you have your second dose, 14 days for you to have the maximum protection that the vaccine can give in the individual. What I mean by individual protection. Which means that even if we had procured the vaccines at that time, in February, March, when you were sick, we were not going to get the protection that the vaccines would bring from a community standpoint for another 3 months, which would have taken April, May, June. So what was the pressure and urgency then when we have the very things that in this current wave are going to protect us, which is the protocols, face masks, social distancing, avoidance of crowds, and washing your hands? Would it not have been more prudent if that had been ramped down from a risk communication standpoint, like Dr. Baye was saying earlier, so that we acknowledged that we hadn't planned adequately? Because when it comes to a pandemic, it's always learning. We hadn't planned adequately for the procurement of vaccines, and therefore we were going to be more pedantic and plan rather than go ad hoc and get ourselves into this whole procurement brouhaha that has happened. So when I listen to what the Minister of Health would say, these are my initial thoughts around what came out, that there seems to be a disconnect between what they were feeding the public and what actually transpired. I'll leave it here for now.
Very well. We'll come back. Yeah, we'll be going into a specific soon. But quickly, Dr. Bayo, let me have your thoughts as well on this whole probe into this contract, which we are told has been abrogated. The concerns at the time, according to the minister, is that, well, the exigencies of the time made it, imperative for the government to act in a certain way, and so it was all in the best interest of the citizenry, and so parliamentary approval was not even obtained, and all those things. Your initial thoughts? Cabinet approval not also obtained.
Okay, so I would say that this is a difficult situation. I have no expertise in procurement, and therefore I won't venture there or try to prefer what is ideal or what should have been done. But suffices to say that I have confidence in our representatives, the representatives of the people, which is Parliament, and I'm happy that they are doing the probe. And from the point of view of a practitioner, all that concerns us is getting efficacious vaccines that have been approved by our FDA, that is backed by science, that we can use. Now, the processes in getting that is a bit cumbersome, that we do not have expertise in. So I'm confident that the parliamentary probe is good. I'm confident that they will act in the best interest of the state, and that at the end of it, Ghana will be better off, and that hopefully, whatever it is, there will be lessons learned from it, that should we ever have another pandemic, we would act better. I think that is what will be my initial comment. As to how the procurement went, the details of it, whether it was right or wrong, I cannot prefer a statement on that.
I appreciate that, and I don't want to, put you on the spot or anything, but there are certain, developments of revelations that emerge that perhaps I think you can comment on it fairly. And let me just ask this, the health minister sits, on the cabinet. Yes. He's one of the privileged ministers to be in cabinet.
Okay.
And so it's quite intriguing that this issue was not even, tabled at cabinet, for instance, that let's have a conversation around this. Indeed, yes, there's a need for us to protect the citizenry, no approval from cabinet whatsoever. Isn't that a bit intriguing?
It will be, and it is intriguing. The thing is, before we can make a definitive statement on that, we need to know what the processes in taking things to cabinet are, and what should be sent to cabinet and what should not be sent to cabinet. Who authorizes the final purchases of things like this? Definitely there will be finance involvement. It will not be done on the blind side of the president and senior people in government. So I'm not too sure what the processes should have been. But like I'm saying, I am hopeful that this probe, and I'm told they are done with the sitting, and they are going to come out with their report, whatever it is, would inform us of whether there were mistakes, whether what was done was right, and which is the best way to go. Because it's very difficult to make a direct pronouncement on whether this should have gone that way or that, because...
The minister himself has made some admissions, though. And this is what Dr. Saposedu was alluding to, the contrition that he showed there. That, well, I perhaps could have done things better. But let me not push you.
Well, fine. I don't know if that admission means that it's an admission of guilt or an admission that he acted in a particular way. But from the point of view of us in practice, like we've been mentioning all morning, we know the importance of the vaccines, and we need the vaccines. We need vaccines that are licensed, vaccines that are efficacious for the people to use. Now, how those vaccines are procured, I think it's in the remit of those who know the procurement system.
Right.
And that's what the parliamentary group is doing.
Is to do. Very well. Let me turn to Doc now. Dr. Kwame Saposedu, we're back to you. So still on this probe, people have, since these revelations came out and the Minister for Health, coming under some intense fire, there are those who are saying, let's be fair to the minister. He was acting in the best interest of the country, not intending to do any harm or necessarily setting out to break any laws. And so be fair to him. What do you make of that?
Well, I think I acknowledged that in my earlier submission by saying that there's a positive aspect where you can look at that and say that here's somebody who, in a crisis, wanted to act irrespective of the circumstances to protect the public health security of the population. That you can give to him. But the framers of our constitution and the framers of our laws, in their wisdom, ensure that in such emergency situations, certain processes are followed. In the wisdom of those framers, they felt that following those processes would not result in undue delay. The question I ask myself is, have those processes been followed? By the minister's own admission, they were not followed. Should I be concerned about that? Yes, because we live in a lawful and not a lawless country. And therefore, much as I would give the minister the credit for having the sense of purpose to do that, I cannot fail to fault him for not realizing, especially with a minister of his caliber and public service duration, not realizing that by not complying with the requirements of an emergency situation, he was probably going to be in breach of certain aspects of our laws. I come to this conclusion because if we are not careful and we begin to say, oh, in an emergency you can do whatever you like, we'll be opening a can of worms. In a situation whereby people would be acting ultra virus of our laws and using "we are not in normal times" as a blanket. If you listen to the minister critical, he said, I was trying to hide behind the executive instruments that have been issued, and then I'll go back to Parliament, that he said he was hiding behind means that he was aware that there was a lacuna and he was trying to exploit it. For me, that should be concerning. But like Dr. Bayer has said, let's see how, the committee counts all the information that he.
So what are your expectations, though? Even though we wait to see what happens, what are your expectations of the outcome?
I expect them to be balanced. The point is that they know we've heard what the minister said. Some of us listened all through. And yes, our parliamentarians, and for that matter, the committee, are the rightful representatives of us as citizens because we voted and we entrusted those, positions and leadership roles to them. But the other thing is they cannot, and I doubt they would, also play on our ignorance and say what we heard is not what we heard. So I expect that they will be balanced. And even if they would bring, because you realize that both the minority and majority have people in that committee who have been ministers before and know the encumbrances that come with holding such ministerial position and the pressures, albeit. And so even if they would try to caveat some of those things to give us an understanding of the peculiar situation in which the minister found himself, I would expect a balance when they do that.
Very well. Let me ask you this last question, though. The calls for the health minister's resignation, what do you make of that, even though we are still waiting for the parliamentary probe, to issue its report, the committee to issue its report? I doubt they would actually make any such recommendation or anything of that sort, but what do you make of the recommendations for his resignation?
You see, I made this post on Facebook and I'll go back to it. I said, those who are asking for the minister to resign, the minister went into a contract for 3.4 million doses of vaccines at $19 each, which is over $60 million US. There's someone who issued letters of credit. There's the Attorney General who probably gave advice. I think if we just say the minister must resign, then he's taking the fall for something that we all in our heart of hearts know that can't be done by one person.
So
for me,
much room. Yes,
for me,
is that what you're
we
saying?
need to wait for, because I'm quite sure that this committee would unearth all those things. How even it came for the LC to be issued. Who signed that LC and all those things. And those would be important. At that point, when we've got the full picture, we can ask for the number of heads. I am a bit cautious in asking for the heads now, because if I did that and we found out that other people were complicit in the situation we find ourselves in, then obviously one person would have been the fall guy. And I don't think that is a very fair approach to look at public service. So though I'm concerned about the behaviors of the minister under this current revelations, I would rather wait.
Very well. Thank you so much, Dr. Kwame Sapon-Asiedu. He's a pharmacist and a fellow with CDD Ghana. We do appreciate your time, and I'm sure we'll be touching base at some point. But quickly, and stay safe in the UK, because we know there's quite a situation there as well. But back to you, Doc. Your concluding remarks, and we call it a day on this segment.
All right. So my concluding remarks would be that we want Ghanaians to know that COVID is real. COVID is still with us. We are facing a very serious challenge now because we have a variant that is very contagious, infectious, easily spread, and quite lethal. And that we are speaking from the health system, and we are saying our health system, though better, much improved, cannot withstand if we allow this thing to go unchecked. And so people should take personal responsibilities for their lives and the lives of their loved ones. And we can only do that for now with the use of our masks. So everybody should know that you are calling for a vaccine, but you have one vaccine before you, and that vaccine is the mask. So use that whilst you wait for a jab. That would be my appeal. And the final one will be to the leadership of our country, that the appeals will help, the use of ambassadors will help, but we need enforcement because of the mixed communication that has gone on. Without enforcement, it will be difficult for people to voluntarily decide to comply with the law. And let's apply it fairly to everyone so that we can turn the trend downwards.
Very well. And we'll say a big thank you to you as well, Dr. Titus Bayo. He's Deputy General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association. We do appreciate that, your contributions as well. A few messages have come through. Let me quickly try to read some out here. This one says, good morning to you and your panelists. My second greetings goes to our famous Dr. Titus Bayo, our incoming MP. Somebody says you're an incoming MP. Well, let me leave that out for now. Yes, says God cannot overturn, the will God cannot overturn by mere creatures. That's Musa Seidu from the Upper West region. Another one coming in says, good morning, Lawyer Abna. As a matter of urgency, the government should fast-track the procurement and importation of the Sputnik V vaccine to tackle this virus once and for all. That's Suleiman Adamba. He says the Big Six Secretary in Tamale. Good morning, Abena, says another. Ghanaians must focus on the contract signed by the company working at the airport COVID-19 tests. That's Osman in Tamale. Walanyo in Akwetia says, I was very impressed by Mr. Kisie Jabin's in-depth knowledge of the law. Okay, so that's preempting the next conversation we'll be having soon. We will be turning to that very shortly. And let me say thanks for the messages that have come through so far. And also to Dr. Titus Bayo and Dr. Kwame Sapon Esiedu. And earlier we had Dr. Esiedu Bekwe, the Director of Public Health with the Ghana Health Service, joining us also via Zoom. We do appreciate his contributions as well. We'll take a break. When we come back, we go into the issue about the vetting of the special prosecutor nominee, Mr. Kisie Jabi, and also the appointment of an acting IGP in the person of COP George Ekufo Dampare, and what these developments mean for our fight against corruption and indeed at the security of the country. See you shortly.
Access to information when it comes to persons living with mental health, with regards to reproductive health and sexual rights, is very, very scanty. We have neglected them for so long. But persons living with mental health are just like you and I, but we often forget about them. They go through the abuse, the neglect, the sexual harassment, all the things that women and young people go through. They go through that as well. It is about time that we make a conscious effort, deliberate effort, to make sure that persons living with mental health or people with mental health conditions have access to the right information, not talked over their heads, but explained explicitly to them to understand some of these challenges.
This message is brought to you by Basic Needs Ghana and funded by Amplify.
How safe is your environment from pathogens? How do we survive this new normal with bacteria and viruses everywhere? You can take charge of your environment by using Good Air Sans Humidifier with chlorine dioxide tablets to get rid of pathogens, including bacteria and viruses. You can use Good Air Sans Humidifiers in your homes and offices and be rest assured of protection against pathogens. Just set up the Good Air Sans Humidifier in your space to disinfect the place continuously for virus and bacteria-free environment. Our devices work in both public and private spaces like schools, hotels, hospitals, churches, mosques, restaurants, salons, and homes to enjoy a nice family time. Good Air. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Yeah, kind of direct. Now, what's this saying? With Dewa NLA 539 Direct, you only have to select up to 5 numbers from 1 to 39. To play, dial *446# across all mobile networks and select option 1. With a minimum of 2 Ghana cedis, you can bet on Direct 1. Match the first number and win 20 times your stake. Direct 2. Match 2 numbers and win 45 times your stake. Direct 3. Match 3 numbers and win 400 times your stake. Direct 4. Match 4 and win 5,000 times your stake. Direct 5. Match all 5 numbers to win 50,000 times your stake. The more you play, the more you win. Look out for the draw results on TV3 News at 7 p.m. Win easy, win every day with Dewa NLA 539 Direct. Afa, winning no, it choke.
Impressor oil and capsules are carefully formulated to give fast relief from pains associated with arthritis, musculoskeletal pains, waist and back pains, and pains related to sports and other injuries. They contain extras from carefully selected plants that keep the joint strong by stopping the degradation of glycosaminoglycan and support joint lubrication activity. The extras have antioxidant property and eliminate harmful toxins that lead to joint pains, muscular pains, and bone weakness. The combined usage of Impressor capsules orally and Impressor oil topically gives faster relief. They provide relief for a longer period of time. Their combined effect results in soothing sore muscles, alleviate joint dryness, and improve numbness at joints and extremities. With Impressor, pain flees. For bulk purchase, contact Iona Pharmacy 0553 134 185 0243 123 224. This advert is FDA approved.
Getting GoTV was the best decision James has ever made. See, James has always watched football wherever he can. Sometimes it got awkward. It was never really comfortable. And finding a good place to watch became more and more difficult, not to mention costly. Traveling for his games took its toll on James until he discovered something big. Now that James has GoTV, he can finally enjoy the perks of home ground advantage. Good for you, James. Get home ground advantage with GoTV. With superstar players competing in the world's biggest leagues and cup competitions, you'll be spoiled for football choice. So get and stay connected to GoTV for the best football season yet. GoTV. Love it.
They have many things in common. Their taste for what's trending, eagerness to spill the news, excitement to share a new recipe, readiness to commit, willingness to book that event. Ultimately, the vibe to make your imaginations go wild. The Ladies Circle.
Every Saturday, 6 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by
Yaz Sanitary Pad, Vodafone, GTP, still timeless.
Woodin.
Turn it up, turn it up.
Louder. Fokosi. Hey.
A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Ya Jackson. The one who made me love rap. Let's give it up for Amrado.
I can't sing like Kwame Eugene do, but at least I can be a key. Mami freestyle, music, one shot. Are you having fun? No, you are having an AC.
Music shows every Saturday at 8 p.m. on TV3. Don't miss it.
Where all my dancers at? The 3FM Dance Challenge is back this August with exciting things to be won. This is an open call to all non-professional dancers and dance groups or squads, families and more to prove themselves as the best dancer or dance squad. To enter, create a 1-minute video and send to the 3FM WhatsApp number on 0202-629860. Entries are open from now till 4th of August. Finalists will be announced during the 3FM drive on the 6th of August to enter into the main competition. 3FM Dance Challenge Season 2. Let your body loose.
To him, when I saw his name in there, I thought it was that one. So when I started reading, then I realized, nah, it was, you know. So I skipped it quickly, but we laughed over it. Yeah. Welcome back. You're still watching and listening to the Key Points live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7, online at 3news.com, also on Facebook at TV3 Ghana. So next we're going to be looking at the appointment of an acting IGP in the person of COP, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare, and also the vetting of the special prosecutor nominee, Mr. Kisi Jabing, who was soon after actually recommended by the Parliament Appointments Committee for approval by the House. Now, these all happened in the course of the week, and we're going to be having a conversation about that. In the studio with me to have this conversation, we have lawyer Justice Abdullahi. Of course, he's a lawyer and lecturer with the law school at the University of UPSA. Sorry. And then we also have in the studio.
Full is good.
Sorry?
We need a name in full. UPSA.
University of Professional Studies.
Thank
Very
you so
well. Yes, University of Professional Studies, Accra. Yes. And then there's Richard Nyama, Deputy Director of Communications with the NPP. Over on Zoom, we have Dr. Kojo Asante. He's the Director of Advocacy and Policy Engagement with the CDD Ghana. And also the Honorable Peter Tobu. He's the MP for Wa West and a member of the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament. Good morning, gentlemen, in studio and on Zoom.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Abena.
Good. It's great to have you. Let me start, this conversation with you, Honorable Peter Tobu. We're looking at the appointment of COP Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare as the acting IGP to take over from James Buenu from the 1st of August 2021. But before you start, Honorable Tobu, let's quickly go through a list of the past 10 IGPs. We have from 2001 and to January 2001 to July 2001, we had Ernest Owusu Poku. And then we have Nana Owusu Nsia coming in 22nd July 2001 to March 23rd, 2005. Thereafter, we also had Patrick Kwatin Echampong from 25th March 2005 to 28th January 2009. Then also we had Elizabeth Mills Robertson in an acting position coming in from 28th of January 2009. Paul Teriakwe came in between 16 May 2009 and 1st February 2013. Then came in Mohammed Ahmed Al-Hassan from the 5th of February 2013 to 9th November 2015. We also had John Kudalo coming through from the 19th of February 2016 to 25th January 2017. Then came David Asante Apietu from 25th January 2017 to the 22nd of July 2019. Then to the current James Opon Buenu from October 2019 to present day. And George Ekufu-Dampare would be taking over from James Opon Buenu from the 1st of August 2021. Honorable Peter Tobu, COP George Ekufu-Dampare personally and professionally. So let us know who he is some more. Let us in on what you know about him, briefly.
Thank you very much. Let me say good morning to our cherished viewers and good morning to my fellow panelists, Dr. Asante, lawyer Justice Abdullahi, and then Richard Nyama. It's been a beautiful day. I want to also say hello to the people who brought me to Parliament, the Wa West constituents. I salute all of them. I know they are watching as we speak. Straight to the point, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare. I will be talking about the Commissioner of Police, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare. Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare started policing like me from scratch. In 1990, he got into the police training school at Depot, graduated at the top of the class as the best recruit, and he was a smart guy. He quickly took up to academic studies, and gradually, in a very short period of time, he was a chartered accountant at the age of 25. And today you see that he holds a PhD. That is the academic life. Professionally, Dr. George Dampari is seen as the people's IGP in the sense that the constables, the first corporal, the sergeants, the inspectors, the other rank, they see themselves in him. The fact that he's gone through the trail. Those who believe so much in the fact that policing has become a science, and you need a lot of intelligence, you need a lot of brilliant people in the system to be able to turn things around. And they want to go in for the first degrees and the masters and the PhDs. They also can find themselves in him. A lot of people who believe that humility is a hallmark of leadership can find themselves in Dr. Akufo Dampari. I've worked with him. I've worked with him when he was Director General Finance under Mr. Paul Tawiakwe, who was then the IGP. I was the Executive Secretary. I've worked with him when he was maintained as Director General Finance under Mr. Mohammed Ahmed Al-Hassan, who took over from Mr. Paul Tawiakwe as IGP. I was still the Executive Secretary. I've also worked with him when Mr. David Asante became IGP. I was the Executive Secretary, and Dr. George Akufo Dampari came in for Director General Operations, and gradually he moved into Director General Research and Planning. So Dr. George Akufo Dampari is somebody I've had personal relationship with in terms of professional relationship. I know what he's made up of, I know his capabilities, I know his level of leadership skills, and I know what he can do.
So tell us, what do you think he can do? You say you know what he can do. What do you think he can do? And earlier on you mentioned the fact that he is seen as the people's IGP. I just want to know, is that a factor or a determinant for an IGP's successful tenure or not? So what do you think he can do?
What he can do will have to be the skill set he's brought on board to pick up this job. Effective the 1st of August, I'm sure you will begin to see what he's capable of doing. Assembling a very powerful team, putting things together. You know, Warren Buffett made a statement which is quite expository, and I think I can use that to explain what Dr. Akufo Dampari can do. He says if you want to hire somebody into your organization to give the organization a future, you need 3 key things. 1, integrity. 2, intelligence. And the last one is energy. Dr. George Akufo Dampari is a man of integrity. He's a very intelligent person. And he has energy at the age of 51. So all these 3 key things are found in him. If he's going to fail, he will surprise many people. What he can do have to do with the fact that as a former municipal commander of Cape Coast, as a former regional commander of the capital that is the seat of government, Greater Accra region, as a former Director General Operations, a former Director General Research and Planning, a former Director General of Welfare, and now the Director General of the Police Administration, GP2 as we call it. If there is anything at all he needs to learn in policing, he has learned it. If there is anything that at all he needs to know to become a better Inspector General of Police, he has known that. So all he requires to do is to be able to understand that this requires teamwork. And in that team spirit, because of his level of humility, I am quite convinced that all the police commissioners at the police headquarters will give him their backing, they will support him, and all the regional commanders will give him the backing, and gradually we'll have a solid team to bring policing back to where it ought to be.
Very well. Thanks for that. Let me cross over quickly to Dr. Asante. Dr. Asante, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. So, quick context. We've had IGPs come in and go, and we've always had issues about policing, and like Honorable Tobu just ended, he hopes, you know, things will be turned around under the tenure of COP Dampari. So question then is, do we need to perhaps modify how our IGPs are appointed? And in this regard, we're looking at perhaps making it competitive, the appointments, you know, to that IGP position. Should it become a more competitive thing? For instance, should we even have IGPs vetted, you know, for us to know what they're made of and people to know exactly who is being brought to that position?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that, I mean, that's an issue that has been flagged, I think, several times in terms of the review of our governance, because every post, whether it's post-election, any security review process that has been taken comes back to the fact that, you know, the appointment of the IGP by a president and the different kinds of political pressure that police officers face, the fear of being transferred or demoted or not, moving up the ranks, creates incentives for, police officers not being independent. And if there's a way in which you can take away that pressure, that it can always help to ensure that police officers can do their work without the interference of the political elite. So that is still a question that is on the table, and whether or not a constitutional reform process would address that. I think we've seen examples in Kenya and at other places, even in the UK recently, where police officers are elected and so on. So we have to review that. So the IGP is important because of the command and control process that security agencies operate with. And once the person who is at the top is influenced one way or the other, then it would get to the lower ranks, But I hear a lot of good things about Dr. Dampari. I think even when the position came up after Apietu retired, it was expected that he was going to be IGP. So a lot of people put their trust in him, but as Honorable Tobu has said, it's not just about one person. There's a lot of work that has to be done. I am particularly concerned about police intelligence because of the various threats that we are facing, and some of the kind of responses that we have seen from the police in respect of many sort of major crimes that have been committed. The longer the police is unable to bring perpetrators to justice for crimes that have captured the nation's imagination, then it undermines confidence in the police.
Right.
So intelligence is key. The CID has been investing a lot in forensics and so on, but we are not seeing the fruits of that investment. It started with the Apietu some years back, and it's supposed to really help address these things, but we are not seeing. So I am happy that this is somebody who is seen as somebody who treasures intelligence, who treasures research, and some of the soft side of policing, that then makes operations more efficient and more effective. And then when you start thinking about threats from external threats from jihadists, other kinds of threats from organized crime, cyber security, and so on. So that, the police, in terms of internal security policing, there's some really serious challenges that we are facing, and trying to sort of direct the police in a path that helps them to respond, I think is going to be key. And I hope that this time we're going to have an IGP that is there longer, long enough, because I cannot see how the institution can be responsive and achieve all its objectives when we keep changing, the leadership. And as soon as there's a change in the leadership, there's a change across for commanders, for all kinds of people. So that I welcome the news. He's young, and as I said, I hope that he can stay longer, and if we can give our support to him, that will be for me very, very important. And just one last thing, the more recent issues that have come with regard to the joint policing between the army and the police, and how the standard operating procedures that are deployed in those scenarios, have really not had led to a lot of fatalities. That, I think, is a key area for review, and a very quick review, because we should expect more protest as a form of expression from young people, and the earlier the police find very, more humane ways and smart ways of responding to these kinds of, public order issues, the better. Otherwise, it would begin to radicalize people as, people get brutalized and so on and so forth, and that can create more problems. So I think there are some major sort of, key dynamics that are operating that if he can already show some new approach, that will be helpful.
Very well. Let me push this up further. I earlier asked a question about, the perhaps review as to how the IGPs are appointed, but specifically I want you to look at the utility of, for instance, if eventually there's a review and we are considering parliamentary vetting of an IGP, the utility of that. Let me know what you think of that.
So yeah, I mean, as I said, I've done several, post-election review and the particular roles. I mean, even up to now, you ask the police all of the election infractions and people who committed crimes and so on and so forth, whether from incumbent party or opposition and so on. Up to now, we still request for an update, and you don't get these updates of what actions have been taken, for against these people, because it would then, went into the next election that yes, when it happened to you. So if my government is in power, me too, I'll do whatever. And the police will always tell you, of the kind of interference you get, and they're willing. If you want to survive, you're not going to put your neck out because it's not worth it. So I think that it's important that the IGP and the leadership of the police and ranking officers, whether regional commanders, district commanders, have the confidence of the political class that they can do their work without any interference. And getting political consensus around that through a parliamentary vetting always helps.
Very well.
So I think that is one way that it can be done. And anyway, that can be done without legislation anyway.
Sure, very well. Now, let's look at this. Your institution conducts the Afrobarometer reports.
Yeah.
And I think we can say that consistently the Ghana Police Service, comes up tops when it comes to perception of corruption in institutions. And so with the appointment of COP Dampare as an acting IGP, what are your expectations about his, and with all that you know about him now, at least from Honorable Tobu and from what's been put out in the media, what do you think he can contribute to that, perception, erasing that perception, if you like, of corruption in the service?
Yeah. One of the things I've always mentioned every time the issue about perception around police corruption comes up is that I am yet to see an IGP that comes and says, one of the things I want to deal with is police officers collecting money on the roads, because it's the most visible way in which police perception of corruption arises. That's how the citizen interact with the police, whether you are in a trotro, you're in a taxi, you have a private, police officers, just begging for money and extorting and all of those things. It's such a pervasive, activity that goes on, and it really affects the image of the police. But there has not been any effort to sort of, in a systematic way, have a program to deal with it substantively. Because if that could be taken away, can you imagine what kind of impact that will have when citizens now begin to see that their police officers are strict, their police officers are enforcing the law, and so on? Because the citizens have to feel the wind of change, and the quickest way they can feel the wind of change is through these kinds of actions.
Very well.
So for me, that's one of the fastest way that you can try to have an impact. It's easier said than that, of course, but as I said, for me, that is very symbolic. A policeman collecting a bribe on the streets from a taxi driver or trotro driver is the most symbolic, picture of corruption.
Very well. Thank you very much, Dr. Kudrasachi. I'll be coming back to you for your perspectives on the special prosecutor nominee as well. Justice Abdullahi, let's hear you on the appointment of DCOP. Sorry, why do I keep on saying DCOP? COP, Commissioner of Police, George Dampare, and the fight, against corruption and all of that. Because obviously this conversation is being had within that context, how this appointment can help with, the fight against corruption, but perhaps starting from within the police service itself.
Let me say that this is probably the second time that I've heard such a huge euphoria around the appointment of an IGP in Ghana. The first time was when I think it was somewhere around 2016 or thereabout, or earlier, 2011 thereabout, when a female, I think it was Robertson, when she was appointed, an acting, in fact it was even an acting position, and that was the first time there was so much euphoria about a new IGP having been appointed. And so when I heard this one, I was naturally concerned as to exactly what he's bringing on board that has generated that level of enthusiasm from all Ghanaians across board, everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. And indeed, I talked to those who know him, either from the professional level or those who have dealt with him from other angles. And the commentary has been very good. It hasn't been different from what the media say, and indeed what Tobu has just said. He appears to be a solid guy, not just, I get the drift when people keep talking about his age and all of that.
I know, right?
I don't know why that matters really in this discourse, but unfortunately that's what it is. And so I feel that renewed enthusiasm that he brings on board. I feel it even from where I sit that even a week before he assumes office, he appears to be sending a lot of good messages out there without even having to say a word. And this is what we can all do for our nation. This is what I believe we can all do when... And this same enthusiasm was greeted with the previous special prosecutor. It was similar or even more when he was named as a special prosecutor. We clearly telling you that Ghanaians know what is good and we love what is good. But our leaders probably do not like what is good. And so they will never give us that which is good, which we know can help us.
But he's been nominated at least. He's been appointed acting, so.
Yeah, you see, I'm saying this in context. When good people are chosen, see how all of us jubilate over it.
Does that resounding?
That's the point I'm trying to make. And it's always across board, across political divide. When the usual persons are appointed, nobody really cares.
True.
It's like, oh, well, another job for another young man, to milk us. So the point here is that this is a good message that we are sending to ourselves and to the entire world, that indeed there's another fine gentleman who has the potential of reforming the entire police service. For me, one of the earliest things I would expect him to do is his collaboration with the Attorney General's office to withdraw the entire police from the courtrooms. Those doing the prosecutorial works should all be withdrawn. Well, we do not even have enough police officers to run around this country, do the, what's it called? The visibility jobs in the day, not just in the night. Right. Because, one good thing about the police is that even just a single policeman walking down the street is capable of stopping crime, just his mere presence. And this psychological effect, everybody knows. In fact, they keep selling this message, and we all know that indeed it is true. But unfortunately, we are 40,000 police personnel short of what we need, even to meet just the standard that is required. So let's take them out of the
courtrooms and get them into where they need
to. And so get all these ones from the courtrooms back to where they belong, actually belong.
Very well.
And I have said this several times, that is so easy to do, because now we have a lot of LLB holders who can take up all those positions and be on the Attorney General's payroll rather than be on the police administration's payroll. That is the earliest thing I expect him to do, so that in addition to the 5,000 that they are yet to recruit, we probably may have about close to 50,000 police officers, which will still be about 30,000 short of what we actually need. But going forward, at least we'll be making some progress in regards to that. And so, that. And then, naturally, I know everybody is talking about the corruption part of it, which I expect I expect to see a lot of things regarding that area. I remember one IGP, I think about 4 years ago or 5 years ago, in his fight against corruption, decided to rather do a media campaign and then sharing of flyers and then bills and posts. Really.
So maybe those are all lessons to be learned, and so definitely
you cannot fight corruption within the police administration simply by writing at the station that bail is is not payable, or it is good. To send such messages. It's probably would work for the media gimmicks, but the reality is the checks that are put in place to completely stop it.
Very well.
It is not the media gimmick. It's not. It's not about posters and the police. I think we know the sort of things that can get us the result we need. And among those would include, for instance, having all these cameras around either on the chest or wherever, and having to feed those cameras directly into their strong rooms, so that we know what kind of discussions they have, we know what they see, how they see what they see, how they react to some of these things. This is a modern way of fighting crime and stemming corruption. This is the best way you can do these. Sure. Of course, saying this doesn't mean that I'm oblivious of the cost implications. But if you think peace is expensive, maybe you probably should try anarchy and chaos.
Very well. Let me bring in Richard at this point. Richard.
Richard would have given me his time because I'm his brother.
Your initial thoughts on it, but specifically...
I'm his brother. You would have given me his time.
Why
didn't allow me?
The people are concerned about, or want to know, why appoint him as an acting IGP and not a substantive IGP right from the get-go?
Let me say good morning to my co-panelists and your viewers, and thank you for having me. Seriously, I don't envy him. He's coming bearing a very heavy burden. The expectations are very high. And like my senior brother, Mr. Tobu, said, he comes with integrity. And I think that's the resounding theme around the table and across the divide. The integrity and humility that he brings to the table. And they say good things come to those who wait. I think he's waited his turn. I want to believe that when he gets into the saddle, by his performance, the confirmation will automatically follow. So I wouldn't have sleepless nights over his acting position. But there are two major things that I would want to see.
But before that, if you could, the bit about the acting position, it's not the first time, it wouldn't be the first time that
they have acted,
yes, but I think, for that, you realize that it's for short periods. So for Elizabeth Mills Robertson, that was from January 2009 to May 2009. And so, but looking at the praise that has come with Dampari's appointment as IGP, I'm sure people would want him to become the substantive. But looking at the historical antecedents,
no, but there have been instances where acting has become substantive as well. My issue here is, it looks like for some while now, we have not been very happy or excited about the policing we're getting. And so maybe the attitude is to test the waters. Let's see what you bring to the table before we confirm you.
So the president was testing the waters. That's what you're saying with this kind of
I'm saying that could be. That could be. You see, there's a lot of praise, and that's why I don't envy him, because the expectations are so up there. If he doesn't hit the ground running, we might turn that into a lot of criticism, and Ghanaians.
But would it be fair to test him, given the kind of narrative you've put out here? Of course, and we all know, like you're saying, he's coming in at a very difficult time.
Yes.
And you saying, I don't know how long he would be tested for. That is, if indeed that was what the president was doing with this acting thing. But would that be fair on him to come in at a time when everything is not necessarily, the best of,
I don't
in the best of shape?
That the president is testing him. I am.
That's I'm using that as
yes, and I am saying that even assuming that is the case, I think there's cause for that because it's been a bit disappointing in the past few years, and that I have to be very blunt about. Mine is you know, our neighboring countries, the threat of terrorism is very serious. In actual fact, it's now with us, and the security services. It's not everything that you can say, but they are out there actively trying to make sure that the silly things that happen around our borders don't happen here. So, Dr. Asante's suggestion on the terrorism is a very important issue. The collaboration between the two, the military and the police. The military are doing their possible best around the borders, and we have seen some arrests and other things take place because of that. But you see, these guys also are quite smart, and sometimes one or two people slip through the system. And once that happens, it's down to the police to also nip those guys in the butt. And there is a need for us to up the ante in that direction because the threat currently is very real. I think the collaboration is ongoing. Some of those have spilled into what we have seen in the internal issues that are currently before some committees and all those things. But if he came with a plan on how the standard operating procedures are properly defined and well apportioned, we should be able to keep Ghana safe for our neighbors to still want to throng in. The other issue, and the most importantly, is the issue of corruption. I'm going to there give some suggestion, and I want to believe it will be probably so radical. But you see, I cringe when a policeman stops me and tells me, "Oh, boss, today is Friday. Something for the boys." So, it's the uniform. It's not your person that we respect. It's the uniform. You see, anyone can be a policeman, but you would have to bring some respectability to that uniform. In any jurisdiction, when a policeman appears, what the imprint on the mind of the citizen is someone of integrity. And that is what our police force has lost. And why have they lost it? They are in traffic seeking 1 cedi, 2 cedi.
So what do you think can be done to undo that?
I think seriously that culture is very difficult to change. If I had the opportunity and to advise Dr. Dampari, I would probably have him ask for us to privatize motor traffic. And let me explain myself. I see traffic offenses as one, if not the #1 income earner for government in this country, if we go ahead and implement it well. Our eyes are all on the harbor. In other jurisdictions, those are major sources of funds for government. But in our case, people are committing the crimes and paying 1 cedi and 2 cedi and getting away with it. So government is not getting the revenue that is required. So mine is this. The police who are supposed to be doing that are busy collecting 1 cedi and 2 cedi. You cannot rely on them. They won't change today, they won't change tomorrow.
We need to take a break though.
So my suggestion is that private security are giving, you are demarcated, you are giving zones. If it is Tema, one private security company takes it. Accra, Kumasi, do that. Give it to the private security. They have requirements. They have the body cams at their own expense. They will have to bring it in. Government then gives them the receipts that they will have to issue spot fines.
It's an interesting thing you've raised. Mr. Honorable Tobu here is, you know, the, let me say, on the panel, expert in that area, because he is himself a former policeman. So let me just throw that to him and see.
I haven't finished
no, but you've proposed the privatization of it.
The privatization, but let me explain how I think it should work. Then he can come in. Point is that if you had the private security, you give them, this comes at no cost to government, because the body counts we are asking for, government will have to procure them. We do not have the money. Let the private security companies that are capable show that we can procure all these things. You then assign a couple of policemen. Nobody stands there. You are issued the receipt. They will probably have a table on the motorway where you go and pay and take your receipt and go. Nobody, you are not asking or having any questions. Once you are on the side of the road which you are not supposed to be, once you are breaking traffic, there is a spot fine, you are paying it cash there. Everybody is counting. Government decides if the private company is taking 20 or 30%, the rest comes to the state.
Very well.
This, I think, will take out that culture. Then we'll reduce the number of the police on the streets in traffic and go and let them do their community work.
Very well. Honorable Tobu,
yes,
you've heard of Richard's. I'm sure you have comments in respect of that, but we need to take a break. But before that, let's have your expectations about COP Dampari's perhaps in the short term. What are your short-term expectations from him?
That question is mine?
Yes, to you.
Right.
We're taking a break, but I just need that from you quickly.
Very quickly, before I can make that comment, I think I need to make some correction on Richard's submission. Please, anyone can be a police officer, as his mate declared. It's not true. It's not everybody who can be a police officer. Policing is a calling, and people with passion to serve must be the ones that can be police officers. You need integrity to be a professional police officer. If he's talking about outsourcing the job of the MTTD, I do agree, but it's not about privatizing. If you privatize, you are just shifting the corruption into another level. Let's look at why is it that the perception around corruption in that area is so right.
But who would it be outsourced to? Who would it be outsourced to?
In some time back, we were thinking about creating some unit under the Ministry of Transport and let the Ministry of Transport take care of these road-related matters that are giving the perception about corruption in the police very high. If you're able to do that, I'm sure that with time you begin to appreciate that the policeman is not necessarily corrupt. The society is structured in such a way that it's difficult for you to be on the road and do the things that you want to do professionally without the kind of pressure that society will be bringing to bear upon you. But that notwithstanding, I think that Dr. Dampari will have a platform that will allow everybody to contribute some ideas for us to see how can we chart a new path towards bringing professional policing to bear in our democratic dispensation. Very quickly, the problem is that, you see, when you are appointed and acting, there is a problem for you to come and solve. As we speak, there are problems. And the problems are violent crime, the problems are crowd control management related issues, the problem are rising youth employment that is connected to crime, and Dr. Dampari has been appointed to act. I am very sure within the 6 months period that people are thinking that is a honeymoon period, after 6 months, we'll begin to assess him to see whether he's putting the right structures to be able to manage crime. Crime basically is about prevention. I can make one suggestion. I'll give him a deployment plan of 541. 541 is a deployment plan that says put 50% of your staff into operations, prevention. Put 40% of your staff into intelligence and investigation, and put just that last 10% of your staff into administration. If you're able to do this 50, 40, 10, I am telling you as a matter of fact, within a short period of time, you begin to see the public confidence continuously building into the police service. But if you have so many people sitting in the offices, policing is out there in the field. Policing is not in the office. The office is administrative. You sit down and push paper to ensure that the men and women who are on the ground, in the front line, will have the morale to be able to work fast.
Very well.
They're able to do the 50, 40, 10.
Honestly, we need to take a break, but you've raised an issue that I want to bring in. The critics about of COP Dampari, the few, I must say, have said that, well, he's more of an administration person. He hasn't had, substantial experience, if you like, at the forefront of things like you're talking about. Operations, I believe, is the terminology in your sector. Then that should be a concern, shouldn't it?
No, it's not a concern. The Inspector General of position, his position is so unique. You know, in the police, we say the Inspector General is a spirit. We say he's a spirit because you hardly see him, you only hear him, you only read from him. And his directives are so powerful. If he knows how to put square pegs in square holes, round pegs in round holes, he'll be able to identify people who are operationally minded, probably even better than him as the IGP, and place them in the right positions and direct them, and they will work for him. That's what I'm talking about, the ability to build a guiding coalition, a very powerful team with the right people, the right skill set, put in the right places, and they will function effectively.
Thank you. We'll take a break at this point. When we come back, we move into the vetting of the Special Prosecutor nominee, Mr. Kisi Ejabin. This is the key point. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The journey to find out one queen continues. Last week, our contestants put up splendid performances.
Freedom! Freedom at last! So in the wake of a new dawn, people of Ahafo are not just courageous, so we are hard working.
This week, the battle gets keener as our ladies have been tasked to identify a cultural practice that they would like to modernize in their region.
You can identify queen mothers by how they wear their dowry.
Catch Ghana's Most Beautiful 2021 live from TV3 Studio B this Sunday at 8 p.m. Studio audience is strictly by invitation. And remember to vote for your favorite contestant by dialing *713*13# or download the TV3 Reality app from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store and follow the prompt to vote. GMB 2021, rediscovering true beauty.
GMB 2021 shows Sundays at
8 p.m.
and repeats Fridays at 3 p.m. and is sponsored by Lavon's Tomato Mix, Camel now from Kerex, Freedom from Casaprecon, GTP, Darling Lemon Drink, Airtel Tigo's Big Time Bundles, Lufat, Heaven Black Mosquito Spray and Coil, and Napa Mackerel,
Geisha, Close Up,
and supported by
The Saturday mornings will never be the same again.
We will bring you the best mix of sports and lifestyle content on Warm Up Plus.
We will interview exciting professionals from different fields of endeavor, including sports and fitness. Give fans an opportunity to show their passion and preview upcoming games.
Discuss what's trending in the world of sports and entertainment, give you lifestyle tips, serve you music, exercise, dance, laugh, and have an absolute ball on TV each Saturday.
So whether you're a fan or you just like fun,
you will absolutely love Warm Up Plus.
Warm Up Plus shows live Saturdays at 10 a.m. only on TV3.
Turn it up, turn it up.
Louder. Focusing. Hey.
A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Jackson. Someone who made me love rap. Let's give it up for Amrado.
I can't sing like Kwame Eugene, but at least I can be a key.
Mami freestyle, music, one shot. Are you having fun? No, you are having an AC.
Music shows every Saturday at 8 p.m. on TV3. Don't miss it.
If you've ever been in need of dire help and all hope is lost, the doors are closed, then you understand there's power in the words, how can we help you? These are reassuring words that bring hope to the hopeless and relief to the brokenhearted. Have fun and make money while doing it to help a friend, a loved one, your neighbor, or even your community.
Can't see, right?
Yeah.
Munio. What shall
Menu.
Compass.
There you go. Oh. Oh, man.
How was I supposed to know what you were doing?
How can we help you? Let's have fun while making a difference. Proudly brought to you by First National Bank.
First National Bank. How can we help you?
How can we help you? Show Sundays at 5:30 p.m. on TV3.
From working with FMCG companies from across the world to being a trilingual Ghanaian who's traveled the continent to giving us an insight as to how she's been able to relate to her children.
Remember, you're not teaching that child to be artificial and connect to the world they see on the internet. You're teaching them to be authentic. This is what will make that child bring value to the perspective of everything they do.
We also get to learn about the different types of orchids. There's over 20,000 types of orchids in existence. And how do you know this is a phalaenopsis?
It's by the leaves, the shape of the leaves, the breadth, the color, and the flowers.
Okay, I learned, and I'm about to learn, that this is called the spike, and this type of orchid is called the phalaenopsis. You don't want to miss this episode right here on TV3 on Today's Woman.
Today's Woman shows Sundays at 3 p.m. and repeat Wednesdays at 3 p.m. on TV3.
But I'm here to assure you, it takes a grain of wheat to die. And if the grain of wheat doesn't die, it bears fruit but alone. A part of you must die for another part to come together. God, He commands, He demands, and He expects obedience from us. Freedom without limits is addiction. I pray that the Lord will expose you to a big idea about yourself. I pray that the Lord will expose you to a big idea about yourself.
I am Bishop Gordon Kisei of Life International Church, City of Favor, Achimota.
Where all my dancers at? The 3FM Dance Challenge is back this August with exciting things to be won. This is an open call to all non-professional dancers and dance groups or squads, families and more to prove themselves as the best dancer or dance squad. To enter, create a 1-minute video and send to the 3FM WhatsApp number on 0202-629860. Entries are open from now till 4th of August. Finalists will be announced during the 3FM drive on the 6th of August to enter into the main competition. 3FM Dance Challenge Season 2. Let your body loose.
Welcome back. You're still watching and listening to The Key Points live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7 and online at 3news.com, also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. So we have on Zoom Dr. Kojo Asante, he's with CDD, also on Zoom Honorable Peter Tobu, NDC MP for Wild West and a member of the Defense and Interior Committee, and in studio, we have Richard Nyama with the NPP, Deputy Director of Communications, and Justice Abdullahi, a private legal practitioner, in studio as well. So we're moving on next to look at the vetting of the Special Prosecutor nominee. Before we launch into that conversation, let's take a story that has been put together to put matters in better perspective.
Hours, Kisi Ejabing answered some hard questions about claims he is a surrogate for a law firm, Africa Legal Associates, a firm belonging to NPP member Gabi Asario-Tredako. He also answered questions about his age, being the youngest SP at age 43, as well as issues relating to his independence and his track record in fighting corruption. The Office of the Special Prosecutor is mandated to investigate and prosecute all corruption-related offences, abuse of office and conflict of interest pertaining to public officers, politically exposed persons and persons in the private sector. Mr. Jabing maintained that his experience makes him more than qualified for the current role, not his age.
I was called to the bar some 18 years ago. I qualified to sit on the Supreme Court of Ghana. I have taught criminal law, especially in the University of Ghana, for 15 years, continuously. Supervises the collation of evidence and all that for presentation to the Attorney General. Without me, the Attorney General's office will be poorer in terms of those prosecutions.
Mr. Jabing mounted a strong rejection of claims that he is a surrogate of another law firm and that he had links with the botched Ejapa deal.
I was not involved in the Ejapa transaction in any form or manner, by any stretch of the imagination, however fertile. I wasn't involved in the deal. I was nowhere near it. Indeed, until it started coming up, I didn't even know what it was.
The special prosecutor indicated that although he will fight corruption, he may not end it entirely.
I'm not naive to assume that I'm coming to stop corruption. There is no way I can stop corruption.
Martin Amidou resigned, claiming undue executive interference. But will the new OSP succumb to pressure to resign when the going gets tough?
My first inclination will be to persevere along, because that is my calling, and that is the oath that I have sworn. Unless it becomes so unbearable, then I will say the Republic should take its job.
Approved by the 275 members of parliament, Mr. Jabing has a 7-year tenure to live up to his track record of being committed to the law and the fight against corruption.
Right, so those were scenes from the vetting of Special Prosecutor nominee Mr. Kisi Ejabing there. Lasted about 3 hours there. Honorable Tobo, I understand you'd like to make a quick clarification on an issue about the IGP. Honorable Tobo, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes.
I can hear you.
Yes. So you need to make a quick clarification, is that it, on the IGP issue?
Yes, please.
Very well. So briefly...
Very quick one. A wired man is an angel replica. So somebody is talking about using technology as an accelerator in the fight against corruption. That is the best example. If you wire the police officer, any human being who is wired, and you know that somebody is watching you as you perform your duty, they become like angels. So if you want to reduce corruption, let's wire the police officers with cameras. We also have to realize that political interference is one of our biggest problems. So if we deal with these two, I'm telling you, all the government agencies that you find, within 6 months to 1 year, you will begin to see change.
Very well.
And that is the truth.
Very well. Thank you very much.
I would insist.
Honorable Peter Tobu. Dr. Sante, let me come to you on the Special Prosecutor nominees vetting. Your thoughts quickly on that, or briefly, sorry, on that. I know CDD, as one of many civil society organizations, had some concerns about, not about his credentials or his, competence, but some supposed association with the establishment or the government, and that was, something concerning to civil society. Dr. Sante, let's know from you if the vetting resolved all these concerns you had about conflict of interest, for instance.
Yeah, I think he had an opportunity to explain himself and how his relationship with individuals in government, where people thought that it might create, perceptions that you don't want to be carrying into a position where you are supposed to be very independent from government. With all the experiences we've had with the office after it's set up and its inability to take off, I think everybody was really concerned that we didn't want to basically almost kill another opportunity to really get that office going. So I think that that those issues were dealt with. But conflict of interest is always continuing. So it's really a question of what systems and structures are put in place to ensure that the office of the special prosecutor is insulated from any kind of political interference, and then I'm glad that he recognizes that this is going to be a very lonely job. You would have fewer friends from now on, and it's for your own good that that situation. But it's I mean, you have to encourage somebody who decides to take that path, because this is not a job that you have people lined up like the DCE one where you had applications, 100 and so applications going. No, this is a very, very difficult job, because it requires a lot of integrity. You are coming against powerful people in society, and on a daily basis you're going to have all kinds of pressures on you. So it's good that he recognizes that is going to be a challenge, and he has accepted that is what he has to do.
Very well.
But it has to be actions. See, actions always speak better than words. So that's what we are all going to look forward to see what exactly he does.
Very well. Now, it took, his vetting lasted 3 hours, and soon thereafter, within an hour, he was recommended for approval by the House. The committee recommended him unanimously, I must add, for approval by the House. What did you make of it, particularly as going into this vetting, there were lots of issues around, the supposed association with certain individuals in government, conflict of interest issues, and all of that?
No, I think once he had dealt with that, and I think some of the questions were good. Some of the questions I thought was irrelevant to the inquiry that Parliament was, or the assessment that Parliament needed to do. But he proved that he is very much aware of the act that he's working with, the constitutional framework within which he's operating. He has experience litigating as a criminal lawyer. He seems to have reflected on how best to tackle the monster of corruption in our country, and he has some good ideas, for working on the preventive side, because that, for me, I think is an area that we have neglected too many times, and often, when you focus too much on the custodial centers, you miss out on how dealing with behavior. You always have to have create a legitimate expectation that when people do things, first of all, they will be found out, and second of all, if they are found out, they would be prosecuted, and if they are prosecuted, they would find themselves, behind bars, and their assets are going to be recovered. So it is a legitimate expectation that you create, but that does not mean that you have to jail 100 people.
No.
It might just be 2 people, but it creates a certain expectation that then begins to let people who really want to do this begin to think twice. Domlevo did that very brilliantly with surcharging, and once that is repetitive, it creates a different mindset in the minds of people that who have to make a calculation: do I risk it or not? So I am looking forward, to engaging him. What I worry about is, how to build synergies with the Shraj and other organizations, so that he can have his focus on politically exposed persons, because that's what the law really is focused on. So I don't want him doing corruption generally. There are many institutions there that can help, but he has a special focus that I believe that he should try and keep to.
Very well. Doc, we'll need to let you go, but in just maybe 30 seconds, your expectations of the special prosecutor, in just 30 seconds.
I mean, so my sense of him is that Kissi Ejabing could, as a private criminal lawyer and a lawyer of a certain repute, and a young lawyer as such, who's done well and probably has made also good money, he didn't need this job. So the first time I heard that he had been nominated, I asked myself, why would he choose this? Because if you don't do well and you are attacked to have been either compromised, you soil your reputation. And, this will go with you for many years because he will have many years to live, God willing. So if he is making this choice, then it means he has thought about what, he's going to do. So we really want this office to get off the ground. And the best we can do is to, work with him. Hopefully he brings something new and he succeeds, because we desperately need our institutions to work.
Thank you very much. Dr. Kojo Asante, we'll let you go at this point. We do appreciate your time and your contributions. Dr. Kojo Asante is the Director of Advocacy and Policy Engagement with the CDD Ghana. Richard.
Thank you very much.
The Office of the Special Prosecutor has been in existence for the past 3 years, and there are still some issues with it. What are your expectations about this incoming Special Prosecutor with regards to this office?
First and foremost, the speed with which he was approved tells you something. There is something common between he and the IGP, acting IGP. That is integrity and humility. Okay. I've had experience with Mr. Kissi Ejabing. Many people don't know, but in 2010, 2011, when I took on Honorable Mohamed Muntaka, then sports minister, yes. His representative, his lawyer was Kissi Ejabing. And that was my very first experience of him. And it comes out when you sit with him. He's a solid guy. He knows what he's doing. And like Kojo said, he's made it in that sense. He's proven it academically. He's a lecturer as well. Now, you expected that there will be a lot of rancor in the vetting process. This issue about his relation to Ajapa, yes, Martin Amidi threw it out there. When he did, the question was, what proof did he put out? He's come, and I hope Martin will respond with some evidence, because we are tired of the epistles and the diatribes. If he's coming back, he should come back with some proper evidence that we can deal with. He mentioned something, and I can relate to that, that he would use the Anas principle. He's been Anas's lawyer as well. That's a common friend that we both have. And in those my anti-corruption days, Anas was one major source, someone that I worked with to put my evidence together before I proceeded with any case. And I think it is in the state's interest to probably find a way of training and using such private detectives behind the scenes to assist someone like him. You see, because the act of corruption is like a marriage. Like you said, it's secretive. It's a marriage. If you don't come out and tell your marriage problems, nobody knows. Okay, and until there is some sour grapes within the marriage, nobody hears anything. And in most cases, you don't hear anything. But if you find a way of getting into the marriage and listening and getting evidence, it will help. And so I pray his Anas principle does not end in the vetting committee, but it's implemented. And the state should give him a budget to get those things going. We need it, because unfortunately, it's a culture that is deep in our blood as a people. Corruption is very accepted. Actually, if you are not corrupt, you seem to be sick. in this country. So that is a problem, and we need to tackle it and tackle it.
Justice Abdullah, your thoughts on Kissi Ejabin's performance and your expectations of him. I know you are into the fight against corruption seriously, and so this obviously is a passionate issue for you.
I am elated once again for having a relatively younger man, almost my age mate, to be steering the affairs in the fight against corruption. I have been here with Johnny Hughes, your colleague, constantly screaming and yelling at our leaders for the neglect and then sometimes the wanton waste of resources, among other issues indeed. Of course, naturally corruption being the central feature of some of these discussions. We have been fighting this. We have been fighting to get the best out of our leaders. And I think the person of Kissi Ejabin, I know him better as a lawyer because we all probably make living out of the court complex and other few places. So I have absolutely no doubt that if he is given the appropriate resources and the protection, he will excel fantastically in getting us what we need. And I would insist that he has set himself. I know he
said he'll guard his independence jealously. Those were his words.
He did say that, but he is certainly not oblivious of what he said. The customarily attitude that people bring on board when you have a leader in that position. Your chiefs, your family members, your elders, your uncles are the first corporates. They will call you, and then the pressure starts. You have to do, oh, that man is my very good friend, oh, please see to him for me. And then when you go back home, the insults and other accusations start. So really, these are real. These are systemic corruption that we have as part of our culture. But the position he occupies is a position that can, and if he really wants to do it, completely gets himself rid of some of these interferences. As for the politicians, they will come after you. It is normal, it's natural. He should expect that, and I know he is expecting it. But what is important is how he can get his way around these things by making sure that whoever is found culpable of anything wrong is adequately catered for in accordance with law. It is only that the integrity that we all know him to have built today would continuously guard him. Because really, the moment people start seeing the discriminatory approaches to issues, it is a point where the confidence and the trust gets lost.
Very well.
And I would urge him to guard. Well, luckily, Kissi doesn't need the money because he's made enough. He's made some good money, and so I believe and trust that he'll be able to do this job very well without necessarily having to look out for the money. Because really, but for the money, he wouldn't. If it is for the money, he wouldn't be.
Thank you so much.
Doesn't even come with money.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The time is just fast.
That is so unfair.
It's
so unfair to me. But it's seriously unfair to me. And this is the second time you are doing this to me.
I'm so.
But if you give me a small time, how do I even make?
There are four people around the table. You know,
but everybody has enough time to.
I don't have. I'm still waiting.
Exactly. You see your point.
No.
Honorable Tobu, you have the last 30 seconds, please.
Had all the time.
Honorable Tobu, you have the last 30 seconds.
He did all the discussions.
Thank you so
30 seconds, please.
It's okay. Let me use the 30 seconds.
It's so not right. Every time you do this thing,
it's not
corruption true. And let's not concentrate on the severity of legal punishment. Severity of legal punishment has filled our prisons, yet crime is still out there. I'm so excited about his youthful age, 43 years, and I think that they have something in common. He has something in common with the IGP. They both have intelligence, they have energy, and their integrity will be tested. Integrity in private practice is different from your integrity that's required in public office. Many Ghanaians outside this country are doing so well, but when they come back, because of the systemic challenges, they find themselves wanted.
Thank you so much.
I wish all of them well, and I wish Kissi Ejabin so well. Let him be proactive and preventive.
Thank you very much.
Stop thinking about deterrence.
Honorable Peter Tobu, thank you so much. Honorable Peter Tobu is the NDC MP
no, this one I may have to bring a petition.
And a member of the Interior and Defense Committee.
No, I need to bring a petition on
Justice,
this.
Please.
No.
Justice Abdullah is a private legal practitioner. I will compensate you.
I have been sitting here for the past 1.5 hours and I've spoken for
Mr. Richard Yama is the Deputy Director of Communications with the MPP. And viewers and listeners, thank you so much for spending such a moment with us. We appreciate your time.
And my vice chancellor is watching
this. We'll be back here same time next week.
Until then, just to speak for 5 minutes.
Weekend and stay safe. COVID-19 is real. Please
5 minutes.
Safe.
And my vice chancellor is watching this.
Justice.
You're coming to impress your vice chancellor. I told you.
You can't imagine.
Vice chancellor, I told you.
Can you imagine this?
Justice.